Chapter 1024. Was this the five-element chaos chi? Ning Cheng's entire person immediately turned excited. He didn't expect to feel the five-element chaos chi the moment he entered Five Elements Planet. This aura seemed different from the aura he felt outside Five Elements Planet, but it also seemed to have a completely different effect from the mysterious yellow origin chi. However, at this moment, Ning Cheng's mind was completely filled with the idea of obtaining the five-element chaos chi. Therefore, he immediately rushed in the direction of this five-element aura. No, Ning Cheng only walked for a dozen breaths before he stopped. If he could feel it, then others could also feel it. In other words, the holy emperors who came in before were the same as him, moving forward through this feeling. But the fact was that he had been waiting outside for 9 days, but he didn't see a single cultivator coming out. Ning Cheng had just stopped when a horrifying aura directly rushed into his sea of consciousness. He couldn't even resist it for half a moment. Just like a majestic river, a torrent raged in his sea of consciousness, and a series of roars resounded in his sea of consciousness. Was this an attack targeting his sea of consciousness? Ning Cheng instantly understood that this wasn't a possession, but a powerful means to attack his sea of consciousness. At this moment, Ning Cheng couldn't care about looking for the five-element chaos chi. He quickly brought out the everlasting blue thunder fort. If he didn't block it, this attack would be like blowing gas into a balloon. Sooner or later, it would blow up his sea of consciousness. At first, this attack really looked like an invisible gas, but as Ning Cheng brought out the everlasting blue thunder fort in his sea of consciousness to block it, this attack turned into a substantial torrent of sharp knives. This reminded Ning Cheng of Ding Xi's Knife Mountain artifact. At this moment, the torrent of attacks in his sea of consciousness was several times more terrifying than Ding Xi's endless Knife Mountain. Catcha! A crack appeared in Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness. Ning Cheng's heart sank as a crack appeared in his sea of consciousness. Immediately after, his mind suffered a backlash, and he spat out several mouthfuls of blood. The everlasting blue thunder fort couldn't block this attack at all. This attack was like an invisible shadow that could ignore the existence of the everlasting blue thunder fort. More and more of these attacks poured into Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness, and these torrents turned into blade lights, sword chi, glaciers, flames. All kinds of attacks crazily spread in Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness, and Ning Cheng couldn't use any means to block these attacks. Hurry up! Ning Cheng immediately brought out the array flag to teleport away. He soon discovered that, at this moment, apart from bringing out the everlasting Blue Thunder City, he could not bring out anything else. Not to mention bringing out the array flags, even entering the mysterious yellow bead would be impossible. He had almost no control over his sea of consciousness. If this continued, not to mention that he would not be able to control his sea of consciousness. Even if he could control it, it would explode. Caca! Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness continued to crack open, causing Ning Cheng's entire body to turn cold. He finally understood why there was no news of the people who came in before him. No matter how strong these people were, they would not be able to withstand such a violent sea of consciousness attack. How many of them had a starry sky sea of consciousness like him? Even his starry sky sea of consciousness couldn't hold out for long, so it would be strange if others could hold out. Planet 5 Elements really was a conspiracy, but Ning Cheng could not understand this kind of conspiracy. Was it just to attract people to come in and kill them? His sea of consciousness was still splitting apart. Ning Cheng could feel his consciousness gradually fading away. His sea of consciousness contained an additional thought, which pointed him in a certain direction. It seemed that all he had to do was slowly advance in that direction. I must not lose consciousness, Ning Cheng thought in his heart. Dark Nether Spirit Devourer, devouring everything. The Dark Nether Spirit Devourer was Ning Cheng's last resort. At this moment, he had no other choice but to operate the Dark Nether Spirit Devourer, to devour the attacks in his sea of consciousness. What made Ning Cheng excited was that when the Dark Nether Spirit Devourer started to operate, the Dark Nether Spirit Devourer directly grinded away the attacks in his sea of consciousness, turning them into a stream of spiritual consciousness that he could devour. The torrent attacking his sea of consciousness turned out to be a transformed spiritual consciousness attack. Moreover, this transformed spiritual consciousness attack was several times more powerful than his own spiritual consciousness attack. Even his everlasting Blue Thunder City could not resist it, which showed how terrifying this spiritual consciousness attack was. When Ning Cheng started to operate the Dark Nether Spirit Devourer to grind away the torrent of attacks in his sea of consciousness, his sea of consciousness finally stopped cracking apart. The violent torrent that filled his sea of consciousness also gradually stabilized. At least it did not continue to crack apart his sea of consciousness. The torrent attacking his sea of consciousness from the outside still continued to increase, and Ning Cheng could not stop it at all. The only thing he could do was to constantly use the Dark Nether Spirit Devourer, to grind away the attacks in his sea of consciousness, to protect his sea of consciousness. After knowing that this attack might be man-made, Ning Cheng did not dare to enter the mysterious yellow bead. He did not even dare to casually bring out the array flags to escape. Even if he wanted to escape, he needed to have enough strength to do so. Otherwise, just as his front foot reached the outside of 5-element planet, he might end up getting sucked in again. Looking at the torrent attacking his sea of consciousness, it was still very mild. As long as he could use the Dark Nether Spirit Devourer to grind away this attack, he could eventually save his life. Once he escaped, and the people from 5-element planet found him, they would definitely target him. At that time, how could he survive? Ning Cheng was not sure if this attack was controlled by someone, but he had to be careful. As time slowly flowed by, Ning Cheng also gradually submerged into the white mist, without even a single sound. Ning Cheng just kept using the Dark Nether Spirit Devourer, to grind away the attacks in his sea of consciousness. Unfortunately, this kind of attack seemed endless. No matter how much Ning Cheng swallowed or grinded away, the torrent of attacks would quickly fill Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness again. If this continued, his sea of consciousness would collapse sooner or later. Ning Cheng took in a deep breath and carefully took out an Empyrean Consciousness Transmutation pill, and swallowed it before taking out a few more transfer array flags. In case he was discovered, or if he had no way to resist this kind of attack on his sea of consciousness, he would immediately bring out the teleportation array flag, and make a desperate escape. With the help of the Empyrean Consciousness Transmutation pill, Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness grew stronger and stronger. The pressure on Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness was also getting lighter and lighter, while the cracks in his sea of consciousness were also slowly being repaired. Not knowing how much time had passed, Ning Cheng felt that the torrent attacking his sea of consciousness had become even more rapid. If the previous attacks were a small stream, then the current attacks had turned into a large river. Ning Cheng, who had just recovered his sea of consciousness, once again faced a powerful bombardment. Had his secret of being able to refine the torrents attacking his sea of consciousness been exposed? This was Ning Cheng's first reaction. He was sure that his means to resist this kind of attack had been leaked, and the hidden attack was now fully concentrated on him. Hurrying to leave, Ning Cheng immediately brought out the transmission array flag. Ning Cheng had just thrown out a transmission array flag, when he once again felt a few figures passing by him. At the same time, the attack in Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness weakened once again. Did someone come again? Soon, Ning Cheng's guess turned into a fact. This time someone really came, and it wasn't just one or two people. Groups of people rushed into the depths of 5-element planet from different places. Although many of them saw Ning Cheng, no one felt strange about it. At this time, the torrent attacking Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness had become even weaker. Ning Cheng understood that this definitely had something to do with the cultivators who came in. With so many people coming in at once, the only explanation was that the auction was over, and many cultivators had come to 5-element planet after receiving the news. Feeling that the Dark Nether Spirit Devourer had completely worn away the attacks in his sea of consciousness, Ning Cheng didn't rush to leave. He didn't want to know the purpose of 5-element planet attracting so many people to this place. He truly felt the 5-element primal chaos chi here. This time, Ning Cheng didn't rush forward with the crowd. His spiritual consciousness had become even more powerful now, so he directly spread out his spiritual consciousness to observe the surroundings. The cultivators who came in were the same as him. After coming in, they desperately tried to escape in one direction. Some people, like him, woke up halfway. Unfortunately, they didn't have the Dark Nether Spirit Devourer cultivation method. In the end, they still had to follow the voice in their consciousness. Ningqing didn't dare to follow these people. He was afraid that the attacks would control his sea of consciousness again. He also didn't go out but chose one of the directions. The reason why he chose this direction was because of his spiritual consciousness imprint. He had left a spiritual consciousness imprint on Su Hui, Yin Jinqing, and that Ping Jin. In the end, only this spiritual consciousness imprint remained. Ningqing remembered very clearly that this spiritual consciousness imprint was left on Yin Jinqing. Ningqing walked very slowly. After more than half an hour, he found Yin Jinqing. To be precise, he found Yin Jinqing's body. Yin Jinqing had already died, but she had a strange smile on her face. Her body was intact, but the clothes around her waist were missing, revealing her white body. There was also a cyan handprint on her lower abdomen. Ningqing took in a deep breath. It wasn't that Yin Jinqing had died that shocked him, but the state of Yin Jinqing's death surprised him. Yin Jinqing was a Tao sculpting holy emperor. Generally, after a holy emperor died, as long as their corporeal body remained, there would be some remnant Tao charm. Many holy emperors still had traces of Tao charm on their bodies even after countless years of death. But Yin Jinqing looked like an ordinary person. After she died, there was no trace of Tao charm left. It was as if someone had stripped away the traces of Tao charm on her body. Stripped away? Ningqing shuddered. At this moment he suddenly heard a scream. Someone is devouring the foundation Tao charm of cultivators here, crazily seizing spiritual roots. The voice only spoke half a sentence before it stopped abruptly. Ningqing's scalp went numb. This was not a good place. But before he could think of leaving, he heard more sharp screams and even some shouts. Among these shouts, Ningqing vaguely felt an aura similar to the mysterious yellow origin aura. That's right, this is the aura. Ningqing felt ecstatic. He felt sure that this aura was different from the aura he felt when he first entered Five Elements Planet. The aura he sensed earlier was attracting him, urging him to rush in. But this aura was the real Five Elements Chaos Chi. Ningqing didn't hesitate and directly followed this aura. Since entering Five Elements Planet, he had been in a passive state. Now that he felt the Five Elements Chaos Chi, if he didn't find a way to take it away, he would feel sorry for himself. Chapter 1025. At this moment in Ningqing's perception, the entire Five Elements Planet felt like a huge steep slope, and he kept falling down. Along the way, Ningqing encountered several corpses of cultivators who had just fallen. It seemed that he wasn't the only one who had discovered the Five-Element Chaos Chi. Many more people had discovered this place. It's just that these people couldn't reach the end before falling down. These cultivators' corpses were the same as Yin Jinqing's, without even a trace of Tao charm. At this moment, a torrent several times stronger than the one that attacked his sea of consciousness before slammed into his sea of consciousness. Catcha! Ningqing's starry sky sea of consciousness once again made a cracking sound, and Ningqing felt his consciousness tearing apart into pieces. The terrible pain made him roar out in a low voice. This kind of attack was something his dark nether spirit devourer grind couldn't swallow. Unable to contain the essence blood within his body, he couldn't help but spit it out. Ningqing still didn't have the slightest thought of retreating. Instead, he kept rushing forward while using the dark nether spirit devourer to swallow the torrent that attacked his sea of consciousness. In this way, Ningqing kept rushing down while operating the dark nether spirit devourer grind to absorb the attack in his sea of consciousness. As for the Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill, Ningqing treated it as a candy at this moment. As for the aftereffects, Ningqing didn't care about it right now. Bang! An invisible restriction blocked Ningqing's path. Outside the restriction, there were several corpses of cultivators who had just fallen. They had the same luck as Ningqing, but they didn't have the same strength as Ningqing. As such, they died just after arriving here. Ningqing quickly ignored the corpses of the cultivators on the ground and stared at the scene in front of him in shock. This was a huge spherical restriction, and there were 5 completely different auras flowing within it. Each aura contained an indescribable Tao charm, and something similar to a morning bell or evening drum. Although there was no sound, it could penetrate into the depths of a person's mind, just like a giant drum roaring in the bottom of one's heart. This definitely was the Five-Element Chaos Chi. Ning Cheng held back the ecstasy in his heart and raised his hand to crack the restriction in front of him. "Aunt, if you dare to break this restriction, this sage will not stop until I devour your soul for 1,000,000 years." Just as Ning Cheng was about to break the restriction, a bone-chilling voice rang out in Ning Cheng's ears. Ning Cheng suddenly looked up and saw a looming shadow appear behind the huge restriction. This shadow seemed to be formed by countless Dao Rune auras. These Dao Rune auras were fusing together at a rapid speed. "So it's you. You tricked all these people here to devour their Dao aura, foundation, and spiritual roots, right? What a vicious cultivation method." Ning Cheng raised his hand, and a long spear immediately appeared in his hand. "Haha, the world's cultivation methods are only divided into useful ones and useless ones. How could there be evil and non-evil ones? For example, your devouring will attack technique is a very useful thing. Otherwise, I'm afraid you wouldn't have been able to reach here." The shadow laughed. Ning Cheng found that as this looming figure spoke, it had once again solidified a bit. He immediately understood that this figure must be constantly growing while devouring. Just like his 7 Bridges divine art, after merging with the laws of the Dark Nether realm, it slowly solidified. At this time, Ning Cheng was even more certain that this fellow could not move, and could only attack through the torrent of attacks that had entered his sea of consciousness. Cultivators who couldn't devour spiritual consciousness could only watch their sea of consciousness explode after entering this place. As for this fellow from Planet 5 Elements, after killing these cultivators, he could use the fastest speed to seize the Dao runes, foundation, and spiritual roots of these cultivators. Through this kind of seizing, he continued to grow and solidify. Once he grew to the point where he could move at will, Ning Cheng wouldn't even have the ability to resist. "I'll give you the chaos chi of the 5 elements. As long as you cooperate with me. We can talk about the specific cooperation methods after I give you the chaos chi of the 5 elements. Otherwise, even if I let you enter this restriction, you would only be able to stare at the chaos chi of the 5 elements. Let me tell you, the chaos chi of the 5 elements is not something that can be taken away by ordinary things. But I can use this restriction to let you take away these things." The shadow behind the huge restriction continued to attack Ning Cheng's position in various ways. "I agree." After the shadow heard Ning Cheng's words, it calmly spoke up. "It's good that you agree. We both have our own gains. Otherwise, you wouldn't get anything and would even die." When the shadow spoke these words, its figure turned even more solid. But before it could finish its words, the spirit artifact long spear in Ning Cheng's hand slammed into the circular restriction. At the same time, Ning Cheng also spoke out the last few words. "That's strange." At this time, Ning Cheng fully understood why Le Bao Chamber of Commerce leaked the location of Planet 5 Elements before the auction even started. There was only one reason, that was this shadow's cultivation wasn't high enough. The shadow most likely had an agreement with Le Bao Chamber of Commerce, which meant that Le Bao Chamber of Commerce would send a small number of cultivators here to improve the shadow's strength. Once the shadow's strength improved to a certain level, it would bring in more cultivators to improve the shadow's strength once again. It was just like a starving person, who would first give him some porridge, followed by a feast of fish and meat. Ning Cheng would remember this enmity from the Le Bao Chamber of Commerce for no reason. Boom. Catcha. This circular restriction was already a bit broken, and it began to overflow with the primal chi of the 5 elements. Coupled with Ning Cheng being an array formation master proficient in the Tao of array formations, this spear strike caused a crack to appear on the circular restriction. If he didn't have the Dark Nether Spirit Devourer technique and the Empyrean Consciousness Transmutation Pill, his sea of consciousness would have turned to dust before he could even reach this place. In the face of this fellow who wanted to kill him, if Ning Cheng was willing to compromise, then he wouldn't be Ning Cheng. What's more, this fellow's body hadn't even solidified yet. "You're courting death." The shadow roared in anger, and a dozen torrents of Sea of Consciousness attacks swept into Ning Cheng's Sea of Consciousness. Ning Cheng staggered, as he crazily spurted out several mouthfuls of blood, while his entire face turned incomparably pale. He had originally disguised himself as a family's pretty boy, so after spitting out these blood arrows, his face turned even paler. No, if this continued, His sea of consciousness would eventually shatter under these torrents. While Ning Cheng crazily operated the Dark Nether Spirit Devourer technique, his spiritual consciousness also began to stretch out, forming a spiritual consciousness domain around his body. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness domain had already taken shape a long time ago. However, using the spiritual consciousness domain to deal with other spirit techniques did not have much effect, which was why he did not use the spiritual consciousness domain to defend himself. Now that he was in a life and death situation, he forcibly brought out his spiritual consciousness domain to face the enemy. The Shadow's torrent of consciousness attacks, other than spiritual consciousness, could not be blocked at all. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness domain had just formed, when nearly 40 to 50 torrents of consciousness blasted over. Ants go to hell. Seeing Ning Cheng continue to attack the circular restriction, the Shadow finally went berserk, and focused more of its energy on dealing with Ning Cheng. Kaka. Kaka. The cracking sounds came from Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness domain, which was continuously shattering under these consciousness attacks. The torrents of consciousness attacks bombarded Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness, causing Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness to crack a few more times. The cracking sounds came from the circular restriction under Ning Cheng's long spear, causing 2 more cracks to appear on it. At this moment, Ning Cheng's Zifu started to show signs of cracking. Ning Cheng grabbed a handful of medicinal pills and swallowed them down. At the same time, his spiritual consciousness domain crazily stretched out. If not for his spiritual consciousness domain blocking part of that terrifying attack, his sea of consciousness might have exploded. Boom boom. The Shadow's torrent of consciousness seemed to have gone crazy as it smashed into Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness domain. However, Ning Cheng felt happy in his heart because this attack was not even half as powerful as the last time. He knew that it wasn't that the Shadow's strength had declined, but that more people had rushed here, and the Shadow couldn't take care of them all. Sure enough, just as Ning Cheng thought of this, several figures landed not far from Ning Cheng. One of the cultivators screamed, "5 elements Chaos Chi." Immediately, these figures completely ignored everything else and brought out their weapons to attack the circular restriction. Ah! 2 screams rang out, and the 2 Tao Nourishment Holy Emperors who had just attacked fell directly. The only reason they could come this far was because of Ning Cheng's restraint. Now that they wanted to attack the circular restriction, the Shadow naturally wouldn't let them do as they wished. Ning Cheng could resist the Sea of Consciousness torrent attack, but it didn't mean that others could resist this terrifying attack. The 5 elements Chaos Chi was too attractive. Even though 2 Tao Nourishment Holy Emperors had fallen, the people who came later still attacked the restriction like crazy. The pressure on Ning Cheng greatly decreased, and his spear once again struck the crack in the circular restriction. This circular restriction finally gave out a catch-a sound, before a large hole with a radius of a few feet appeared. Ning Cheng immediately rushed in. Behind Ning Cheng were 2 Tao Transformation Holy Emperors, 1 Tao Nourishment Holy Emperor, and a man in brocade robes. Although Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness had only scanned slightly, he still recognized the man in brocade robes. This guy had hidden in the periphery of 5 Elements planet before him, and he seemed to be called Jing Shihua. This guy was really opportunistic. Ning Cheng risked his life to take the lead, and this guy came here to directly grab the fruits of victory. However, Ning Cheng didn't have time to care about these guys right now. He wanted to grab as much 5 Elements Chaos Chi as possible in the shortest time possible, and then escape. Since everyone was here, it would be up to fate to grab more. He didn't believe that the Shadow would give up like this. The Shadow had devoured so many cultivators, Tao Rune's foundation and spirit roots. All it needed now was fusion. Once the other party fused with it, if he was still here, it would be the day of his death. An indescribable Tao Rune aura cleansed Ning Cheng's body, making him feel comfortable and refreshed. Even his understanding of Tao Runes and 5 Elements spirit arts instantly became much stronger. Big brother, I didn't misjudge you. I'm basking in your light. Jing Shihua passed by Ning Cheng and didn't forget to thank him. He even promoted Ning Cheng to big brother. When he saw Jing Shihua holding an exquisite jade bottle, Ning Cheng recalled what the Shadow had said. This 5 Elements Chaos Chi was very hard to take away. Just as Ning Cheng thought of this, he heard the 2 Tao Transformation Holy Emperors exclaim, Not good. We don't have anything to take away this 5 elements chaos chi. More and more cultivators rushed here, and the shadow no longer cared about Ningcheng. Chapter 1026. When Ningcheng saw the exquisite jade bottle in Jing Shihua's hand continuously absorbing the origin aura, he sighed inwardly. This fellow had prepared everything before coming here. Ningcheng stopped thinking about it, and brought out the immeasurable gourd. The only treasure he had that could store things was the immeasurable gourd. As for the bottles and jars he had refined, Ningcheng knew that he could not take them out. Before taking out the immeasurable gourd, Ningcheng had already made preparations. If the immeasurable gourd could not collect the 5 elemental chaos chi, he would use the mysterious yellow bead to store it. The only pity was that the 5 elemental chaos chi would dissipate in the space of the mysterious yellow bead after being stored in it. The immeasurable gourd seemed to exist specifically to store the 5 elemental chaos chi. As soon as Ningcheng took out the immeasurable gourd, it started trembling violently. Ningcheng had just thought of storing things when the immeasurable gourd's mouth suddenly enlarged. The huge gourd's mouth floated in the middle of the 5 elemental chaos chi like a bottomless pit, seemingly waiting for Ningcheng's command. At this point, how could Ningcheng not know that the immeasurable gourd desperately wanted to store the 5 elemental chaos chi? His spiritual consciousness immediately landed on the immeasurable gourd, and sent out a thought to collect the 5 elemental chaos chi. He even thought of separating the 5 elemental chaos chi. As for whether it could be separated, Ningcheng did not care. Bang! The sound of space contracting could be heard. Ningcheng was shocked to see the 5 elemental chaos chi in the huge spherical restriction pour into the immeasurable gourd like water bursting through a dam. A huge whirlpool appeared around the immeasurable gourd, and Ningcheng quickly sobered up. His heart was filled with ecstasy. He had guessed that the immeasurable gourd could collect the 5 elemental chaos chi, but he had not expected it to be so heaven-defying. Given the immeasurable gourd's crazy absorption rate, it would take at most half an hour to absorb all the 5 elemental chaos chi. Ningcheng knew that he could not absorb for more than half an hour. Once that happened, let alone the shadow, even the other sacred emperors in the circular restriction would not let him off. While the measureless gourd crazily absorbed the 5-element primal chi, Ningcheng's hand curled up and once again formed a whirlpool. But this time, it was not the measureless gourd, but Ningcheng directly sent it into the mysterious yellow bead. In just half an incense stick's time, the 5 elemental chaos chi had been reduced by nearly half. Moreover, Ningcheng harvested too much of the 5-element primal chaos chi, which exposed the huge absorption vortex in just a short time. Even if the chaos chi of the 5 elements could make others ignore their surroundings, it was impossible for them to ignore this situation. At this moment, all eyes fell on Ningcheng's measureless gourd. Ningcheng's absorption of the mysterious yellow bead's 5 elements primal chi also caused others to think that he had inhaled the measureless gourd. Everyone had come here to snatch the 5 elements of primal chaos chi, but Ningcheng's act of snatching it was a bit too overbearing. It was impossible for people not to feel jealous. A few Tao actualization divine emperors charged at Ningcheng at the same time. Ningcheng even saw a Tao essence divine emperor grab at him. Ningcheng roared and unleashed his spiritual consciousness attack. At the same time, dozens of time wheels shot out. Spiritual consciousness attacks and time wheels were powerful killing moves. Even if they couldn't kill the Tao actualization divine emperors, they were enough to delay them for a few breaths. A few breaths was enough for Ningcheng. He threw out the teleportation array flag without hesitation and put away the measureless gourd. The teleportation array flag brought with it a spatial fluctuation. In just a few breaths, it had already swept Ningcheng away. Array Tao powerhouses were truly capricious. They even used teleportation arrays to escape. The few Tao actualization divine emperors could only watch Ningcheng get teleported away. No one went to chase after Ningcheng. Ningcheng didn't escape with all the 5-element primal chaos chi. He only took about half of it, and there was still a lot left. It just depended on whether everyone could take it away. At this time, everyone relied on their own ability to take as much as they could. Even if they knew that Ningcheng had taken the biggest part, no one went to chase after Ningcheng. There would definitely be some left here, but who knew if they could catch up to Ningcheng? It was just that there weren't many cultivators who could take away the 5-element primal chaos qi like Ningcheng. One reason was that they didn't have any treasures to store the 5-element primal chaos qi, and the other was that they didn't have Ningcheng's life-saving means. Some of them couldn't even stay in this circular restriction for a few breaths before their sea of consciousness was blasted open by an invisible torrent, turning them into cold corpses. Ningcheng knew that those people wouldn't chase after him immediately. After teleporting out of 5 Elements Planet, he desperately activated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. After leaving 5 Elements Planet, he immediately brought out the starry sky wheel and rushed away. Whether it was the Tao Essence powerhouse in 5 Elements Planet, or the shadow that devoured Tao Charm foundations and spiritual roots, he couldn't deal with them right now. Since he already had what he wanted, what was he waiting for? He wasn't qualified to find others to settle the accounts of the Lebao Chamber of Commerce. From the moment Ningcheng teleported out of 5 Elements Planet to the moment he brought out the starry sky wheel, it took less than 3 breaths. He didn't even put away the teleportation array, just to escape as quickly as possible. In fact, Ningcheng didn't do anything wrong. His figure had just disappeared when a huge handprint grabbed his teleportation array and directly crushed it into powder. Unfortunately, Ningcheng had left too quickly. Although this handprint contained a powerful aura of laws, it couldn't stop Ningcheng in time. The shadow in the depths of 5 Elements Planet, which was slightly more solid, trembled at this moment. The handprint he had condensed just now had made his solid body even more illusory. Only he knew that he wasn't trembling because he had consumed too much essence qi, but because of Ningcheng's anger. To obtain this planet containing the 5-element primal chaos qi, he had paid the price of his corporeal body and cultivation. His essence spirit had guarded this place for countless years, but just when he was about to succeed, an ant destroyed it. What made him even angrier was that he hadn't managed to crush this ant to death. Unfortunately, he had condensed the handprint a little too late. At this moment, he regretted it very much. If he had known this earlier, he would have asked the Lebao Chamber of Commerce to push back the date of the auction to a few more days, so that he could grow stronger. Even at the cost of his condensed body, he still couldn't stop Ningcheng. Therefore, he could only vent his anger on the cultivators still on 5 Elements Planet. As the holy emperors died one after another, coupled with the 5-element primal chaos qi dissipating, more and more people realized that the situation was hopeless. Everyone started to flee from 5 Elements Planet. No matter how unwilling this shadow was, he could only watch as the cultivators escaped. The handprint he condensed not only failed to stop that Tao sculpting ant, but it also allowed more people to escape. He would remember this ant who robbed him of the 5-element primal chaos qi. One day, he would chew and swallow this ant. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to calm the anger in his heart. Ningcheng changed his appearance to that of a middle-aged scholar on the starry sky wheel, and returned to Broken Thatch Spirit City for the 3rd time. He didn't want to come back, and wanted to go to the Grand Essence domain alone. But after thinking about it again and again, he decided to go with the Void Airship. Otherwise, with his strength alone, he wouldn't be able to pass through the Grand Essence Demon Vein. Besides, Su Yan also said that it would take at least a year to reach the Grand Essence Sea through the Grand Essence Demon Vein. Moreover, after passing through the Grand Essence Demon Vein, he would only reach the edge of the Grand Essence Sea. If he didn't follow the airship fleet, he might not be able to find the teleportation array by the Grand Essence Sea. Ningcheng wasn't crazy to cross the Grand Essence Sea directly to the Grand Essence Domain without using the teleportation array. The Grand Essence Ruins was the largest place in the Grand Essence Realm, followed by the Grand Essence Sea. Not to mention that he didn't know how long it would take to cross the Grand Essence Sea, even if the time needed was within his acceptable range. Even with his strength, he wasn't qualified to cross the Grand Essence Sea. Although many people went to 5 Elements Planet, when Ningcheng returned to Broken Thatch Spirit City, there were still a lot of people in the city. Most of the Tao Transformation Holy Emperors didn't appear, but Ningcheng didn't see any Tao Essence Holy Emperors. Ningcheng went directly to the Broken Thatch Spirit City's Void Airship. Most of the Void Airships here were heading to the edge of the Grand Essence Sea. Moreover, the majority of the Void Airships hung under the name of the Chamber of Commerce. In other words, These void airships not only carried people but also did business. As one of the largest chambers of commerce here, Lubao Chamber of Commerce naturally had its own fleet. This time, Ningqing didn't choose the Lubao Chamber of Commerce. This Chamber of Commerce had left a bad impression on Ningqing. What's more, Ningqing still had a lot of 5-element chaos chi on him. Ningqing chose the Sea Sky Pavilion Chamber of Commerce's airship. The Sea Sky Pavilion Chamber of Commerce wasn't much weaker than the Lubao Chamber of Commerce in this area. It's just that the Sea Sky Pavilion Chamber of Commerce's main business direction wasn't on the edge of the Grand Essence realm, but in the Grand Essence Sea. Another point was that the Sea Sky Pavilion Chamber of Commerce's airship would set off in one day. The price to go from Broken Thatch Spirit City to the edge of the Grand Essence Sea was 2 million high-grade spirit crystals. But 2 million spirit crystals didn't mean much to Ningqing. For the rogue cultivators who struggled on the edge of the Grand Essence realm all year round, it was a huge sum of money. Moreover, 2 million spirit crystals was only for a middle-grade room. The top-grade room cost 3 million, while the lowest-grade room cost 1 million spirit crystals. Ningqing didn't choose the top-grade room or the lowest-grade room. Since it was only for a year, he paid 2 million spirit crystals and chose a middle-grade room. A day passed by quickly, and Ningqing found that the price of the ticket had increased after boarding the airship. In just one day, the price of a middle-grade room rose from 2 million to 3 million. Not only that, but more and more powerhouses came to board the airship. Ningqing didn't casually release his spiritual consciousness, nor did he inquire about the reason. He walked into his room and directly covered it with restrictions. Then he wrote "Do not disturb" in seclusion outside the room. He knew the reason for this. The cultivators who went to 5 Elements Planet had returned. This time, because of him, many cultivators managed to escape from 5 Elements Planet, and many of them managed to obtain 5-element chaos chi. Most likely, some of the people who increased the price to board the airship had a small amount of 5-element chaos chi. Once these 5-element chaos chi reached the Grand Essence Domain's Heaven Essence Sacred City, they would sell for a shocking price. Ningqing sighed in his heart. With so many uninvited guests, this trip to the Grand Essence Sea would most likely turn into a mess. Unfortunately, he had no other choice. If he took the airship behind him, it would only cause more chaos. It might even attract the attention of that fellow from 5 Elements Planet. Chapter 1027. Ningqing didn't stay in the room for long when the ship shook slightly. Ningqing breathed a sigh of relief. He finally set off. The airship's speed wasn't as fast as the Starry Sky Wheel, but it wasn't slow either. After confirming that he was far away from Broken Thatch Spirit City, Ningqing retracted his spiritual consciousness. He planned to set up some restrictions in the room, and then cut out some of the messy things that had swallowed in his sea of consciousness. In 5-element planet, to save his life he only knew how to swallow the torrent of consciousness attacks. He didn't completely cut out the hidden dangers that he had swallowed and refined. In addition, he also wanted to go to the mysterious yellow bead to have a look. The mysterious yellow bead had also absorbed a lot of 5-element chaos chi this time, and had undergone great changes. However, he didn't know if it could allow people other than him to enter. At this moment, the restriction at the door suddenly stopped. Ningqing frowned. He had clearly hung a "Do Not Disturb" in seclusion sign outside his room, yet someone still touched the restriction at his door. He swept out with his spiritual consciousness, and found that it was just an eternal cultivator outside. Ningqing opened the restriction. He didn't believe that an eternal cultivator would dare to touch the restriction at his door. After opening the restriction, Ningqing's spiritual consciousness swept out. Sure enough, a Tao Nourishment Holy Emperor and a Tao Transformation Holy Emperor were watching this place from a distance. This junior is afraid to disturb senior. It's because of the auction held on the Sea Heaven Pavilion's airship. This auction will have top-grade treasures. Senior is a distinguished guest on the Sea Heaven Pavilion's airship. Before the eternal level cultivator could finish his words, Ningqing slapped him across the face and sent him flying. At the same time, Ningqing roared, "Are you blind? Didn't you see the sign this sage hung outside? This is the first time. If anyone dares to disturb this sage, kill without mercy." After saying that, Ningqing raised his hand and changed the sign outside. Then, he quickly returned to the room and put up the restriction again. He didn't give the two people in the distance any chance at all. It was obvious that the two holy emperors wanted this eternal cultivator to open the door. Regardless of whether he went or not, regardless of his attitude, the two holy emperors would find an excuse to argue with him. Ningqing could guess their purpose. They wanted to see if he came from 5-element planet, and if he had 5-element chaos chi on him. Therefore, he directly changed the sign on the door to "In seclusion, if disturbed again, kill without mercy." If those two fellows dared to come after him again, he would kill them. If he didn't do something on the spaceship, there would be an endless stream of people trying to beat around the bush. When the two sage emperors in the distance saw Ningqing's actions, their expressions turned ugly. The Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor said, "A mere Tao Molding Divine Emperor is too cocky. We'll go ourselves." The Tao Actualization Divine Emperor shook his head. "Wait, he knows we're watching." In this situation, he still dared to do such a thing, which meant that he was not ordinary. Let's investigate his situation first before taking action. After Ningqing saw the two holy emperors leave the room, he continued to arrange defensive arrays and restrictions around the room. Maybe there was a Tao Essence Divine Emperor on this ship, but even if they offended him, he wasn't afraid. He would just run away. Half a day later, Ningqing arranged the room as if it was made of iron. Unless there was someone whose array skills were far above his, it would be impossible to break into his room in a hurry. Ningqing immediately took out the measureless gourd. Ever since the measureless gourd collected a lot of 5-elemental chaos chi, he hadn't had the time to check it. He didn't dare check it in Broken Thatch God City, but he didn't have to worry about it now. Taking out the measureless gourd, Ningqing scanned it with his spiritual sense. Sure enough, Ningqing couldn't help but mutter to himself in surprise. At this moment, there were a few more restrictions inside the measureless gourd. At the bottom, there was still a drop of 3,000 weak water. Then the 5-elemental chaos chi was also clearly separated. Each 5-elemental chaos chi occupied a space in an orderly manner. This thing was definitely no weaker than his 7 Bridges spirit art. Not only could it collect 5-elemental chaos chi, but it could also store them separately. Putting away the measureless gourd, Ningqing started to recover his sea of consciousness. In 5 Elements Planet, he had swallowed any pill. Although it saved his life, there were still a lot of side effects. Even if it was a special grade pill, he couldn't take it like this. Therefore, he had to refine out some of the pill toxins hidden in his body. In addition, although his sea of consciousness had strengthened a lot, this enhancement did not come from his cultivation. Most of it came from devouring spiritual consciousness attacks. So far, with the help of the Empyrean Consciousness Transmutation Pill, Ningqing hadn't felt anything wrong. However, Ningqing didn't dare to take it lightly. He always believed in his own point of view. That is, how much you pay, how much you get. There would never be love or hate for no reason. If cultivating spiritual consciousness was so easy, then he could just find an opponent to devour other people's spiritual consciousness. Why would he need to cultivate? Why would he go through all the trouble to find all kinds of cultivation resources? He wasn't the creator of the Dark Nether Devouring Spirit Scroll, but he had seen the fellow who was suspected to have created the Dark Nether Devouring Spirit Scroll. That fellow created the Dark Nether Devouring Spirit Scroll. But didn't he just struggle with his life essence soul? In the end, he still had to go through all the trouble to seize his body. There could be opportunities in the process of cultivation, but there was no such thing as cheating. Because of this point of view, Ningqing still started to cut off the spiritual consciousness power devoured from his sea of consciousness without feeling anything wrong. A month later, Ningqing completely cut off the spiritual consciousness power devouring from his sea of consciousness and sealed it into a bead with restrictions. Ningqing knew how powerful this spiritual consciousness power was. He believed that if he blasted this bead out, even a Tao Essence Holy Emperor wouldn't be able to withstand it. Even if this bead was comparable to Lu Fenglin's Tao Splitting Bead, it wouldn't lose out. Lu Fenglin's Tao Splitting Bead still needed some time to activate, but his bead had been refined by the Dark Nether Devouring Spirit Scroll. Therefore, if he threw it out, he could activate it at any time. Perhaps it was a psychological effect, But after cutting off the spiritual consciousness power devoured by the dark nether-devouring spirit scroll, Ningcheng felt his sea of consciousness becoming clearer and more relaxed. Not only did his cultivation not decrease after cutting off the spiritual consciousness power, but it even improved a little. He wasn't too far away from the peak Dao sculpting realm. A month passed, and no one came to disturb him. Nevertheless, Ningcheng still didn't feel completely relieved. He set up a few more spiritual consciousness triggering restrictions before entering the true spirit world. Yanji, why aren't you cultivating? Ningcheng saw Yanji fiddling with flowers and plants in the true spirit world, and quickly asked. When Yanji heard that Ningcheng no longer called her junior apprentice Sister Ji, she looked even happier. She walked over and said softly, after I advanced to the eternal realm, I cultivated for a few months, but the results were minimal. I can only stabilize my cultivation, but it's still difficult for me to advance. Ningcheng immediately understood the reason and nodded. It should be because the laws of the true spirit world are too weak. Eternal realm cultivators have already condensed their own grand Dao laws. Staying here to cultivate would indeed make it difficult for you to make progress. I'm now on my way to the grand essence domain, and I'm afraid that there will be a war on the way. You can only stay here. Be careful. Yanji didn't ask Ningcheng why there would be a war. She hadn't even reached the Dao sculpting realm, so she couldn't help Ningcheng. I know. My mysterious yellow bead has obtained a lot of 5-element chaos chi. Now I want to see if you can enter the mysterious yellow bead. If you can go in, the mysterious yellow bead's heaven and earth laws will definitely help you cultivate. After Ningcheng finished, he put his arm around Yanji's slender waist, and with a flash he entered the mysterious yellow bead from the true spirit world. Yanji looked at the beautiful world in front of her in amazement. Compared to the true spirit world, this place was a real paradise. Green mountains and clear waters, a gentle breeze caressing her face. In the distance, the endless sea stretched as far as the eye could see, and further away, the rising sun could be seen. The mountain peaks gathered, and the waves raged. There were no outsiders here except for her and Ningcheng. What a beautiful, tall and dense tree. Yanji's gaze fell on a giant lush tree several thousand feet high in the distance. This giant tree looked like a big umbrella that covered the surrounding space. Did it really give birth to the sun, moon, and stars? Ningcheng also looked at the rising sun in the distance with excitement. He could clearly feel that the heaven and earth laws in the mysterious yellow bead had become more complete. Although the rising sun was still weak, it showed that the laws here had started to improve. That's right. That tree had become so lush. When he sent the half-wood origin bead into the mysterious yellow bead, Chasing Bull had planted that tree. But at that time, it had withered. But now it had come to life. Yanji, the laws here aren't any weaker than the Grand Essence realm. You can cultivate here. Huh? Ningcheng only spoke halfway when he suddenly realized something. Yanji hadn't been sent out yet, which meant that his mysterious yellow bead had become an independent world. Even if this world wasn't perfect yet, it could still allow people to live here. Yanji also realized something and turned to look at Ningcheng affectionately. If she could, she would rather live here with Ningcheng for the rest of her life. Ningcheng felt pleasantly surprised and was just about to send Chasing Bull and the exploding golden wasps into the mysterious yellow bead when Yanji gently wrapped her arms around his waist. Previously, because Yanji couldn't cultivate in the mysterious yellow bead, Ningcheng had driven Chasing Bull out. He feared that Yanji would feel a little lonely in the true spirit world, so he asked Chasing Bull to help her in the true spirit world. At this moment, Ningcheng forgot to call Chasing Bull in. At this moment, all sounds became superfluous. Yanji's eyes gradually blurred. At this moment, everything became secondary, only staying together. But her blurred eyes quickly sobered up and looked at Ningcheng in doubt. She felt a killing intent coming from Ningcheng. Ningcheng patted Yanji's slender waist and spoke with a soft voice. Someone came looking for trouble again. I'm going out. You can cultivate here and bring Chasing Bull and the exploding golden wasps in. You can also move the true spirit world's medicine garden here. Although the mysterious yellow bead hasn't evolved into a complete world of laws yet, one day in the future, I can gather the wood origin bead and perfect the world inside the mysterious yellow bead. Chapter 1028. Ning Cheng left the mysterious yellow bead and returned to his room. The killing intent on his face intensified. If it wasn't for his powerful restriction, his room would have been opened already. A month ago, the two divine emperors who ordered an eternal realm cultivator to touch Ning Cheng's room restriction were now outside Ning Cheng's room. The Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor broke the outermost restriction of Ning Cheng's room. The Tao Actualization Divine Emperor didn't do anything. From the looks of it, he was holding the fort. Ning Cheng opened the room restriction. He didn't wait for the Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor to speak. Space Law cooperated with his domain and pressed out. After wrapping the Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor with space, Ning Cheng punched without hesitation. It was an ordinary punch, but it contained time law. There was no setting sun nor dusk intent realm. It was a pure time law spirit art. The Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor didn't expect Ning Cheng, a Tao Molding Divine Emperor, to dare to sneak attack him without saying a word. By the time he reacted, Ning Cheng's space domain had already suppressed him. He didn't even have a chance to speak before Ning Cheng's punch arrived. Time stopped. Perhaps it was just one breath. But to this Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor, it felt like a lifetime. Thud. Ning Cheng's punch landed between the Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor's eyebrows. The Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor's body instantly collapsed. His essence spirit just seeped out and was instantly annihilated by Ning Cheng's fist intent. This breath was indeed a lifetime for him. Ning Cheng didn't even give him a chance to fight back before killing him. Ning Cheng's cultivation level was infinitely close to peak Tao molding. Facing a Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor, who didn't even put him in his eyes, Ning Cheng suddenly punched and instantly killed him. Only after Ning Cheng killed this Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor did the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor react and yelled in shock. "You dare to kill?" Ning Cheng wouldn't answer this Tao Actualization Divine Emperor. He waved his hand and a huge axe appeared in his hand. The next moment, the huge axe hacked towards this Tao Actualization Divine Emperor. Axe rune killing intent tore through the surrounding space and swept this Tao Actualization Divine Emperor in. Only now did this Tao Actualization Divine Emperor react. Ning Cheng not only dared to kill people, but also dared to kill him. Rumble. Ning Cheng's axe rune clashed with the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor's magic artifact. God Essence exploded, creating a rumbling sound. If not for Ning Cheng having some misgivings, the surrounding restrictions would have already exploded into pieces. Ning Cheng sighed in pity. A Tao Actualization Divine Emperor wasn't someone he could sneak attack. Stop! An extremely powerful force crushed over. Then this voice reached Ning Cheng and the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor's ears. Ning Cheng did not continue to attack, he stopped. Although it was a Tao Essence powerhouse, Ning Cheng knew that the gap between him and a Tao Essence powerhouse wasn't just 1 or 2 points. If he made another move, it would mean that he was being unreasonable. After killing a Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor, he finally vented some of his anger. This kind of commotion not only alarmed the primordial Tao powerhouses, but also most of the cultivators on the flying ship. Many of them swarmed over and gathered around to watch the show. "Deacon Xia, this person dared to kill my friend on the flying ship. He's not putting Sea Heaven Pavilion in his eyes at all." The Tao Actualization Divine Emperor quickly put away his magic artifact and bowed. He thought that Ning Cheng would resist, but he didn't expect Ning Cheng to be this strong. However, he did not think that Ning Cheng's strength would be so formidable. Not only did he resist, but he also easily killed his companion. Before, he thought that Ning Cheng was only a Tao Molding Divine Emperor. With two people far stronger than Ning Cheng definitely wouldn't dare to say anything. But the truth was the opposite. Now that the Deacon of Sea Heaven Pavilion's flying ship had come, he probably couldn't hide this anymore. It was a yellow-robed man with a medium build. Although he had a faint bloody aura, Ning Cheng was sure that he was a Tao Essence powerhouse. Some of the more powerful Saint Emperors could even merge with their surroundings. There weren't many Tao Essence Divine Emperors like this yellow-robed man, who still had bloody killing intent. "You dare to kill people on my Sea Heaven Pavilion's flying ship?" The yellow-robed man said as a powerful Tao Essence aura crushed towards Ning Cheng. Feeling the powerful aura, Ningcheng took a deep breath and didn't try to resist it. He wasn't as strong as the others. If he tried to resist, he would have to escape from this flying ship. Deacon Xia, a month ago, I hung the words "Do not disturb" in seclusion outside my room. But these two still broke my restriction and called me out. I didn't care and just replaced the sign outside my room with a new one. Ningcheng pointed to the sign on the side. The words on the sign were still very clear. In seclusion, if you are disturbed again, you will die. I didn't expect these two to dare to break my room's restriction again. If I didn't have some means, I would have been captured by them. I paid God crystals to get on the ship. Do you think they can break into my room just because they want to? I believe Sea Heaven Pavilion will give me an explanation. After hearing Ningcheng's words, almost everyone looked at the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor with contempt. It was a big taboo to break someone's cave home's restriction and disturb them when they were in seclusion. Plus, these two broke Ningcheng's room's restriction twice in a row. Many people admired Ningcheng. According to the unwritten rules, if a Tao Actualization Divine Emperor broke a Tao Molding Divine Emperor's room's restriction, the Tao Molding Divine Emperor wouldn't resist. In fact, Tao Molding Divine Emperor couldn't resist a Tao Actualization Divine Emperor. This Tao Molding Divine Emperor not only resisted but also killed one. This even attracted the Sea Heaven Pavilion's deacon. The yellow-robed deacon glanced coldly at this Tao Actualization Divine Emperor. Ningcheng killing people on Sea Heaven Pavilion's flying ship was a taboo. However, the fact that the other party had dared to forcefully break the restriction on someone else's room on the Sea Sky Pavilion's flying ship was even more of a taboo. If the other party didn't resist, then he would break it. But if the other party resisted and everyone on the ship knew about it, then he would have to be punished. Deacon Xia, we just want to invite this friend to talk about business. The Tao Actualization Divine Emperor's heart went cold. If he knew that Ningcheng, a Tao Molding Divine Emperor, dared to do this, he definitely wouldn't have come. Breaking the rules of the Ocean Sky Pavilion. The yellow-robed Tao Yuan's tone was ice-cold and carried a sharp killing intent. Everyone knew that this Tao Actualization Divine Emperor was dead for sure due to his bloody qi. Before the yellow-robed manager attacked, the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor quickly sound transmissioned, "Manager Xia, please have mercy. I know where the 5-element chaos source is." He could only hope that the yellow-robed deacon would give him some time to escape after he mentioned the chaos origin of the 5 elements. Unfortunately, the yellow-robed attendant's hand only paused for a moment before he reached out. He has. The early-stage Tao Transformation Cultivator only managed to say a few words before boundless divine essence pressure came crashing down. The yellow-robed deacon blasted the early-stage Tao Transformation Cultivator into scraps. The surrounding people were silent, not because this deacon had killed an early-stage Tao Transformation Cultivator, but because they had witnessed the true strength of a second-step Tao Validation Cultivator. This was many times more powerful than Tao Actualization Divine Emperor. Ningcheng's heart sank slightly. He did not feel relaxed at all. Before the early-stage Tao Transformation Cultivator died, he had sound transmissioned. Because his spirit sense was locked onto the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor, Ningcheng did not know the contents of the sound transmissioned, but he could feel the law ripples of the sound transmissioned. If this early-stage Tao Actualization Divine Emperor wanted to send a sound transmission message to Manager Xia, Manager Xia's hand only paused for a moment before he killed the early-stage Tao Actualization Divine Emperor again. Ningcheng was not sure about the contents of the early-stage Tao Actualization Divine Emperor's sound transmission message, but he had guessed what the early-stage Tao Actualization Divine Emperor said before he died. This early-stage Tao Actualization Divine Emperor might have said that he had the chaos origin of the 5 elements in order to survive. This early-stage Tao Actualization Divine Emperor knew that he had the chaos origin of the 5 elements. However, Manager Xia would definitely believe it. Because he believed it, he killed the early-stage Tao Actualization Divine Emperor without hesitation. He was afraid that Deacon Xia's next target would be Ningcheng. It seemed that in this battle, there would only be one winner, and that was Deacon Xia. Ningcheng's guess was right. This early-stage Tao actualization divine emperor wanted to use the news of the chaos origin of the 5 elements to survive. In fact, Manager Xia had guessed it the moment he said the sound transmission message. Even if he didn't say who might have the chaos origin of the 5 elements, Manager Xia guessed that it was Ningcheng. Therefore, he didn't hesitate to kill the early-stage Tao actualization divine emperor, and put away the early-stage Tao actualization divine emperor's belongings. Then he stared at Ningcheng. Someone touched the restriction in your room, and indeed violated the Sea Heaven Pavilion's rules. Therefore, I killed this person. You killed someone on the Sea Heaven Pavilion's flying ship, which also violated the Sea Heaven Pavilion's rules. Since you were forced to do it, you just have to explain it to me. As expected, he wanted to take him away. Ningcheng knew that he couldn't go with Manager Xia. Once he went, he would never have a chance to come back. Ningcheng cupped his fists and said, "Of course. After I tidy up the broken restriction in the room, I will go with Manager Xia." Manager Xia smiled slightly. Sure. Ningcheng only had Tao modeling cultivation. Even if he killed a Tao nourishment divine emperor with a sneak attack, it wasn't enough in his eyes. Manager Xia didn't care about stalling for time at all. The reason why he guessed that the Tao actualization divine emperor he killed wasn't lying was because if it was an ordinary matter, a Tao actualization divine emperor wouldn't dare to provoke the Sea Heaven Pavilion's rules and destroy the restriction in someone else's room. Although there were many such things, once it was exposed, it would be akin to courting death. Facing a Tao essence divine emperor, Ningcheng knew that he could only leave. He chose to enter the room to prepare to leave. He still had a bead in his hand. This bead's power was formed by the spiritual consciousness torrent. Even if he couldn't kill Manager Xia, it should be enough for him to escape. Ningcheng had only walked into the room for a dozen breaths when a roar came from the bow of the flying ship. Manager Xia, who was waiting for Ningcheng, changed his expression. His figure flashed and appeared at the bow of the flying ship. The flying ship was attacked by demonic beasts in the Grand Essence demonic vein. The news instantly spread throughout the flying ship. Facing the attack of the demonic beasts in the Grand Essence demonic vein, no one dared to stay in the room. As the many cultivators swarmed onto the deck, Ningcheng naturally followed the crowd and rushed onto the deck. He originally wanted to escape from the flying ship. Now that he had the opportunity, why would he be polite? The flying ship floated between the endless mountains and forests. Sure enough, it was surrounded by demonic beasts. However, these demonic beasts didn't attack immediately. They were here for the 5-element chaos chi. Ningcheng saw that these demonic beasts didn't attack immediately. How could he not understand? Chapter 1029. We've already negotiated with the Grand Essence Demon Vein to pass through this route. Every year, we pay a lot of spirit crystals and various weapons. Why did your Grand Essence Demon Vein suddenly block our airship? What's the meaning of this? A gray-haired man on the airship said in a deep voice. Deacon Gorge, who had just rushed up, was standing next to him. Ningcheng noticed that this gray-haired man's cultivation was higher than Deacon Gorge's. Most likely he was at the late-stage Tao Essence realm. Standing in front of these demonic beasts was a man with a tiger's head and a human's body. He laughed and said, "I'll tell you the truth. I came here privately. I heard that you have a lot of 5-element chaos chi on your airship. I happen to lack it recently, so give me half of your 5-element chaos chi and we'll leave immediately." "I don't know about this thing." The gray-haired Tao Essence Divine Emperor refused the tiger-headed demon's request without hesitation. The tiger-headed demon snorted. "If you don't agree, then don't blame us for searching your ship by force." This time, Ningcheng didn't even wait for the gray-haired Tao Essence Divine Emperor to answer, and sent a voice transmission to the tiger-headed demon. "You're just an idiot and you dare to ask for 5-element chaos chi? Not to mention that Deacon Gorge has a lot of 5-element chaos chi. Even this father has a lot. Do you think a beast like you deserves it? Our Deacon Gorge is a Tao Essence Divine Emperor and likes to eat tiger's penis. If you don't get lost, don't blame this father for cutting off your penis and stewing it for Deacon Gorge." Even if Ningcheng had a starry sky sea of consciousness, no matter how powerful his spiritual consciousness was, The two Tao Essence Divine Emperors on the Sea Sky Pavilion's airship would immediately know about it. Ningcheng also knew that he had to provoke them and start the battle ahead of time. Because the moment the tiger-headed demon appeared, Deacon Gorge's spiritual consciousness locked onto him. Most likely, Deacon Gorge already had a plan. Once the battle started, Deacon Gorge would kill him first and then take his things. He had to create an opportunity for himself to escape. He couldn't wait for the battle to start and then find a way to escape. Ningcheng didn't want to take this risk. The moment Ningcheng sent the voice transmission, the two's gazes fell on Ningcheng at the same time. Before the two of them could question Ningcheng, the tiger-headed demon roared, and a blade light containing the aura of laws slammed into the Sea Heaven Pavilion airship's restrictions. Just as the tiger head was about to make a move, the rest of the demonic beasts rushed forward. How could the airship's restrictions withstand the simultaneous attacks of so many demonic beasts? The barrier cracked with a crack. None of the cultivators on the ship panicked. They were all looking for an exit to escape. Despite negotiating with the Grand Essence Demon Vein, it wasn't the first time that the Grand Essence Demon Vein's demonic beasts intercepted the airship passing through the Grand Essence Demon Vein. As long as they were in such a spaceship, they would be mentally prepared. Moreover, this time it involved the chaos origin of the five elements, so this battle was already destined. Naturally, it was best to leave as soon as possible. At this moment, the gray-haired Tao Essence Divine Emperor didn't have time to question Ningcheng. He took out his magic treasure and attacked the tiger-head beast. Deacon Gorge and gray-haired Tao Essence Divine Emperor attacked at the same time. But his target wasn't the beast. The moment these monstrous beasts blew open the restrictions, he immediately rushed towards Ningcheng. Although there were many demonic beasts here, if everyone was determined to escape in all directions, these demonic beasts would only be able to stop a small number of them. Ningcheng had provoked the tiger-headed monster so that he could escape. Now that the battle started, Ningcheng immediately avoided the direction of Deacon Gorge and rushed towards the middle of the many demonic beasts. Even if there were countless demonic beasts blocking his way, they were just a group of cannon fodder in the eyes of Deacon Gorge. Seeing Deacon Gorge rushing over, Ningcheng snorted. Sure enough, he had been eyeing this father for a long time. With a wave of his hand, he shot out dozens of time wheels and activated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. A faint golden light flashed, and when Deacon Gorge's palm caught Ningcheng's shadow, Ningcheng had already disappeared from the crowd of demonic beasts. This time, Ningcheng was even more direct. He brought out the starry sky wheel and instantly disappeared into the depths of the Grand Essence mountain range. Ningcheng soon discovered that Deacon Gorge hadn't given up on him. Instead, he brought out a weapon and chased after him. This made Ningcheng feel that he had made a mistake. He had forgotten to tell the tiger-headed monster that the Deacon Gorge who wanted to eat the tiger's penis was the yellow-robed man. Ningcheng didn't worry about Deacon Gorge chasing after him alone. When he was still an eternal starry sky emperor, he could escape from the pursuit of Man Huishan, who had reached the full circle Tao Essence realm. Now that he was almost at the peak of Tao Sculpting realm, how could he fear the pursuit of an early-stage Tao Essence Holy Emperor? As long as he couldn't tear through the void in front of him, this Deacon Gorge wouldn't be able to catch up to him. Sure enough, after Ningcheng brought out the starry sky wheel, Deacon Gorge started to fall further and further behind. Deacon Gorge's face turned gloomy, and he became even more convinced that Ningcheng had the five-element chaos chi. Even if Ningcheng didn't have the five-element chaos chi, this flight-type weapon definitely wasn't simple. He started to drive his flight-type weapon crazily. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried, the distance between him and Ningcheng kept increasing. After confirming that he had shaken off Deacon Gorge, Ningcheng didn't continue to run away. He even put away the starry sky wheel. First, Ningcheng didn't know which direction to escape in, and second, he sensed more and more powerful auras in the depths of the mountain range. Once he reached the lair of that powerful spirit beast, he would only be courting death. Ningcheng carefully concealed his aura and traces, then took out the locale map he had bought and carefully identified it. Unfortunately, the locale map only contained a general direction, and didn't contain any starry sky coordinates. Now that he was trapped in the depths of the Grand Essence Demon Vein, he couldn't even distinguish between right and wrong. It looks like it would be a long time before they could get out of this place. Ning Cheng sighed, and directly looked for a secluded place to hide. For the next few days, Ning Cheng stayed in place and observed his surroundings. He didn't want to run around like a headless fly before determining the right direction. On the fourth day of hiding, Ning Cheng felt a terrifying spatial fluctuation. In just a few breaths, this spatial fluctuation reached a place not far from him. Boom! A rainbow light shot out. This rainbow light split open a several thousand feet long gully 10 miles away from Ning Cheng. At this time, Ning Cheng saw it clearly. It was a fight between two people. On one side was the Deacon Gorge, and on the other side was a giant lizard. Looking at the fight, the Deacon Gorge had the upper hand. However, his clothes were tattered, and his aura was in a mess. Obviously, this upper hand didn't come without a price. Ning Cheng hid himself and didn't dare to move. He was glad that he had made the right choice. If he had kept running away, he probably wouldn't have ended up as well as the Deacon Gorge. Although he had the upper hand, the Deacon Gorge's eyes were still filled with anxiety. He knew that the longer he fought, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. Poof! The Deacon Gorge's weapon once again slammed into the giant lizard. This time, the giant lizard suffered serious injuries and fell from the sky, smashing a small mountain into pieces. However, the Deacon Gorge didn't come down to collect his spoils. Instead, he chose a direction and instantly escaped. Ning Cheng wondered why this Deacon Gorge had such a high style. He didn't even want to collect the giant lizard that he was about to kill? Since this giant lizard could fight against a Tao Essence Holy Emperor, it must have a very high level. It could definitely fetch a good price. An angry flood dragon roar sounded out, which made Ning Cheng understand. The Deacon Gorge knew that a flood dragon was coming, so he didn't dare to stay. Sure enough, a moment later, Ning Cheng saw a giant black shadow directly cross space and rush towards the Deacon Gorge. Ning Cheng carefully revealed himself, and then followed behind this giant black flood dragon. He didn't want to be a fisherman. In fact, Ning Cheng also knew that he didn't have enough strength to do so. Ning Cheng just wanted to follow it and find a way out. The Deacon Gorge had a map of the Grand Essence Demon Vein. If he followed it, he could definitely find the way out. Half a day later, Ning Cheng once again felt an earth-shattering battle. This kind of battle caused the surrounding space to tremble continuously. During the process of the battle between the two of them, the ground was turned into a crisscrossing ravine. Ning Cheng, who was following from a distance, understood that the Deacon Gorge had fought many battles in the past few days. The battle with the giant lizard and the flood dragon was just one of the many battles he had fought. Ning Cheng felt a burst of joy in his heart. Who told you to chase after this, father? If it was possible, Ning Cheng wanted to go and help the flood dragon. Fortunately, Ning Cheng knew that he absolutely couldn't go. He couldn't intervene with his current strength. Taking a step back, even if he could intervene and help the flood dragon, he wouldn't end up well. The Deacon Gorge had consumed too much energy, and Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness was strong. At this time, he deliberately hid in the distance to watch the battle. The flood dragon's strength shouldn't have reached the Tao Essence realm, but the demonic beast's strength made it hard for it to fight against the seriously injured Deacon Gorge. Boom boom. Bang. The flood dragon and the Deacon Gorge's lore-related spirit techniques clashed again. Ning Cheng, who was hiding in the distance, understood that the Deacon Gorge was going all out this time. Blood splashed out from the Deacon Gorge's waist. Ning Cheng clearly saw the flood dragon's tail knife cut through the Deacon Gorge's waist. At the same time, the Deacon Gorge's umbrella artifact turned into a rainbow and passed through the flood dragon's body. It also rolled up a bloody mist. The flood dragon hissed, turned around, and instantly fled. The Deacon Gorge's face was as pale as paper. Although his body quickly healed, he still couldn't stop the loss of his Tao charm. Generally, as long as a starry sky cultivator reached the undead realm, they would be able to regrow their limbs. Once they reached the life and death realm, they would be able to condense their body. However, all Tao-confirming sacred emperors knew how important the corporeal body was to a cultivator. Once the corporeal body suffered too much damage, even if it recovered, it would have a strong impact on the Tao charm. On the contrary, cultivators who hadn't reached the Tao-confirming realm didn't have much impact on their corporeal body. At this time, The Deacon Gorge's body had almost been cut in half by the flood dragon, and his Dao charm aura had become chaotic. Ningqing could see everything clearly from the side. He knew that if he wanted to kill the Deacon Gorge and get the map, this might be his only chance. Not wanting to miss this opportunity, Ningqing did not hesitate to rush out, as he raised his hand and a black arrow silently floated in the air. Chapter 1030. It's you. Deacon Gorge immediately recognized Ningqing, and his eyes twitched as his gaze fell on the black arrow. The black arrow vibrated in the air, and a 5-colored light flashed around the black arrow. At the same time, a 5-colored bow appeared. An endless killing intent swept out and locked onto Deacon Xia. Stop. Deacon Xia flipped his hand, and a jade strip appeared in his hand. This is the jade strip with the map to get out. If you dare to use this arrow, everyone will die here. There is no way out, and no one under Dao Essence will survive in the Grand Essence mountain range. Ningqing's heart sank. He wasn't shocked that Deacon Xia knew what he wanted in an instant, but he was shocked that Deacon Xia could still move after being locked on by his 5-colored star splitter arrow. Since he obtained the 5-colored star splitter arrow, Deacon Xia was the only one who could move under his arrow's lock. Although his arrow's intent hadn't completely swept out, his current cultivation was much stronger than when he used the 5-colored star splitter arrow. The jade strip is for you. Deacon Xia threw the jade strip towards Ningqing almost at the same time as he finished speaking. The jade strip didn't have any restrictions on it, so Ningqing could clearly see the contents of the jade strip. It indeed showed the route out of the Grand Essence Demon Vein. Ningqing had to control the 5-colored star splitter arrow's killing intent. Otherwise, the killing intent would shatter the jade strip. Fortunately, he had just brought out the 5-colored star splitter arrow, so the killing intent wasn't enough to devour him. Otherwise, he would have suffered serious injuries if he tried to retract the killing intent. Bang! The moment Ningqing controlled the 5-colored star splitter arrow's killing intent, a light flashed around Deacon Xia. After the light faded, Deacon Xia disappeared without a trace. Ningqing raised his hand and put away the 5-colored star splitter arrow. He understood that Deacon Xia had already planned this. Once he tried to protect the jade strip, Deacon Xia would have taken the opportunity to escape. Deacon Xia would rather leave than fight him, which showed that Ningqing had chosen the right time. Deacon Xia was indeed seriously injured. At the same time, Deacon Xia chose the right time. If he had taken out the jade strip a few breaths later, he probably wouldn't have had the chance to do so. Ningqing guessed that after Deacon Gorge recognized the 5-colored star splitter arrow, he reacted before the 5-colored star splitter arrow's killing intent completely locked onto him. However, Ningqing did not feel even half a bit happy. In a hurry, he believed that the jade strip was real. However, he failed to kill the deacon and ended up exposing his 5-colored star splitter arrow. The only consolation was that he was in disguise. He used his spiritual sense to scan the jade strip. There was a clear map of the route, and there were even coordinates. The closest location to him was not far away. This time, Ningqing directly brought out the starry sky wheel and followed the route marked on the jade strip at full speed. Without any direction, Ningqing did not dare to bring out the starry sky wheel and move forward at full speed for fear of being surrounded. Now that he had a direction, he naturally wouldn't have any misgivings. With his speed, even if there was a top-notch demonic beast chasing after him, it might not be able to catch up to him. Since Deacon Gorge had given him the map, Deacon Gorge would definitely know about it. Once the Gorge Deacon recovered from his injuries and set up an ambush in front of him, he would definitely be in deep trouble. Right now, he could only take advantage of the fact that Deacon Gorge was still recovering to leave as soon as possible. As Ningqing expected, he did not encounter the Gorge Deacon along the way. Even if some demonic beasts tried to stop him along the way, Ningqing's crazy speed left them behind. After flying at the fastest speed for nearly 9 months, the starry sky will finally rushed out of the Grand Essence Demon Vein. The Grand Essence Sea appeared within Ningqing's spiritual consciousness. Sure enough, it was boundless. His spiritual consciousness couldn't even sweep a corner of it. Ningqing breathed in a sigh of relief and put away the starry sky wheel. He then changed his appearance to that of a bearded rogue cultivator. From the Grand Essence Demon Vein to the edge of the Grand Essence Sea, It was a desolate area tens of thousands of miles away. There were no demonic beasts or cultivators. Ning Cheng had almost reached the edge of the Grand Essence Sea when he saw a defensive Grand Array. For cultivators stood guard at the entrance of the Grand Array. Above the defensive array, 4 words Spirit Sea City were written. This made Ning Cheng feel relieved. He feared that he wouldn't be able to find anyone, and wouldn't know where to teleport to the Grand Essence domain. He didn't know how many years it would take for him to cross the Grand Essence Sea. Moreover, he might not even be able to cross it. The 4 cultivators guarding the entrance looked at Ning Cheng with some doubts. It was rare for someone to cross the Grand Essence Demon Vein, and come here alone. Several Dao friends, is this the teleportation array to the Grand Essence domain? Ning Cheng walked to the entrance of the defensive array, and cupped his fists before speaking up in a polite manner. Among the 4 cultivators guarding the entrance, the highest cultivation was in the Eternal Realm. Seeing Ning Cheng acting so politely, they quickly bowed and replied, "Yes. The first time you enter the Spirit Sea City, you need to pay 10,000 high-rank spirit crystals. But you only need to pay 100 spirit crystals each time. There is a teleportation tower in the Spirit Sea City, and the teleportation tower has a special teleportation array to the Grand Essence domain." The few people understood that Ning Cheng's words indicated that this was his first time here. Ning Cheng felt happy. He didn't say anything and paid 10,000 spirit crystals in exchange for a jade talisman before entering the defensive array. He had sneak attacked Deacon Gorge before. Therefore, Ning Cheng wanted to leave as soon as possible. He wasn't sure if Deacon Gorge had sent any news here, but he guessed that Deacon Gorge would be here. But according to his guesses, even if Deacon Gorge sent a message here, not everyone would know about it. After entering the defensive array, Ning Cheng realized that this was a seaside city with rows of merchant buildings and makeshift markets. There were many cultivators coming and going. Although it couldn't compare to the bustling sacred city, it wasn't any worse than Broken Thatch Spirit City. Ning Cheng could clearly see the 3 words teleportation tower from afar. Ning Cheng wasn't in the mood to go anywhere else, and quickly walked towards the teleportation tower. Wait. A Dao sculpting powerhouse stopped Ning Cheng from entering the teleportation tower. Ning Cheng quickly spoke up. "I want to teleport to the Grand Essence domain. Why are you stopping me?" The Dao sculpting cultivator cupped his fists towards Ning Cheng. "Dao friend, please forgive me. Due to various reasons, the teleportation tower won't be open to the public for 3 months, and we can't send you to the Grand Essence domain." Ning Cheng's heart tightened and he quickly asked, "Why?" The Dao sculpting Holy Emperor smiled and said, "Not only the teleportation tower, but also the Spirit Sea City's defensive array. No one is allowed to go out for 3 months. Of course you can come in. But friend, you don't have to worry. It's been more than 2 months. In less than half a month, the teleportation tower will open." After listening to the Dao sculpting Holy Emperor's words, Ning Cheng understood what was going on. This was definitely the work of that Deacon Gorge. That Deacon Gorge would definitely arrive here within half a month. This fellow's calculations were quite accurate. He estimated the time it would take for him to arrive here, which was why he closed the teleportation tower for 3 months. Ning Cheng felt sure that this Deacon Gorge would be guarding the teleportation array to the Grand Essence domain 3 months later. No wonder he didn't see anyone outside the Spirit Sea City. It turned out that they had all been restricted. In other words, even if he wanted to go out now, he couldn't. Ning Cheng took in a deep breath, cupped his fists and said, "This Dao friend, may I ask where the Spirit Sea City's city master is? Is he in the city master's mansion? I'm a core disciple of the River Luo sacred sect. I have an urgent matter to attend to." Just as he spoke about his origins, Ning Cheng immediately shut his mouth. No matter how far the River Luo sacred sect was from here, the Pill Sacred River Luo sacred sect was still one of the top 10 sects in the Grand Essence realm. Even a primordial essence Holy Emperor from the River Luo sacred sect could easily make the Spirit Sea City suffer. Hearing Ning Cheng's name, the Dao sculpting Holy Emperor's expression suddenly changed. He quickly replied, "City Master Yu is in the City Master's mansion." Ning Cheng had already seen the City Master's mansion when he first arrived. It was not far from the teleportation tower. Without waiting for the other party to continue, Ning Cheng thanked him before turning around and walking towards the city master's mansion. After half an incense stick worth of time, Ning Cheng sat in the reception room of the city master's mansion. This was thanks to his identity as a disciple of the River Luo sacred sect. The Spirit Sea City's city master was called Yu Xing. He was a middle-aged man with a strong water-attributed Dao charm aura. Ning Cheng could feel that his cultivation wasn't any weaker than the Deacon Gorge. Are you a disciple of the River Luo sacred sect? Yu Xing stared at Ning Cheng and asked in a deep voice. Ning Cheng replied in a neither arrogant nor humble manner. Yes, I'm from the River Luo sacred sect. Without waiting for Ning Cheng to continue, Yu Xing waved his hand. You don't need to explain to me which disciple you are. I just happen to have a disciple of the River Luo sacred sect here. I'll let you meet him to see if you're telling the truth or not. After Yu Xing finished speaking, he raised his hand and threw out a message. Hearing this, Ning Cheng's heart turned cold. He didn't expect his luck to be so bad. There was actually a disciple of the River Luo sacred sect here. He was ready to take out Guohauge's identity card if Yu Xing asked him to take out the evidence. Guohauge died in his hands, so he naturally had the identity card with him. But now that there was someone from the River Luo sacred sect here, Ning Cheng naturally couldn't pretend to be one. Yu Xing's spiritual consciousness had completely locked onto him. Ning Cheng knew that he couldn't move. Once he dared to escape, Yu Xing would immediately kill him. This time, the Grand Essence domain attaches great importance to the appearance of Planet 5 elements at the edge of the Grand Essence realm. Most of the sects have sent people to check it out. River Luo Sacred Sect is one of the top sects in the Grand Essence realm. Yet they sent 2 disciples to check it out. Yu Xing chuckled. He had already guessed that Ning Cheng was an imposter. If he really was a disciple from the River Luo Sacred Sect, how could he not come out from the teleportation array, but from outside the Deep Sea City's defensive array? Ning Cheng showed a slight smile but didn't answer Yu Xing's words. Instead, he anxiously tried to think of a way. Unfortunately, no matter how many ways he came up with, the gap between him and Yu Xing's strength was insurmountable. With Yu Xing's cultivation as a primordial holy emperor, he could kill him in seconds. How could he resist? City Lord Yu, were you looking for me? A crisp voice arrived, and a delicate and refined female cultivator appeared outside the guest room. Ning Cheng felt ecstatic when he saw this female cultivator. It was Kong Ning. Kong Ning was already an early-stage Dao sculpting holy emperor. After seeing Kong Ning, Ning Cheng immediately wanted to speak. He wanted to remind Kong Ning that he was from the River Luo Sacred Sect. But then Ning Cheng found that he couldn't make a sound. The restrictions in Yu Xing's room had locked down the surrounding sound transmission space. Unless his spiritual consciousness forcibly broke through the restrictions, he wouldn't be able to speak. Yu Xing saw Kong Ning come in and said with a smile, "Yes, this Dao friend said that he's from the River Luo Sacred Sect. I thought you two were from the same sect, so I helped introduce you." He's from the River Luo Sacred Sect? Kong Ning glanced at Ning Cheng and asked in doubt. Chapter 1031. He couldn't wait for this Dao Essence Holy Emperor to make a move. Ning Cheng raised his hand and tore open the sound restriction in the room. "Junior apprentice Sister Kong Ning, it's me. I changed my appearance." "Are you senior apprentice Brother Ning?" Kong Ning immediately recognized Ning Cheng when she heard his voice. She immediately understood that something must have happened to Ning Cheng, which forced him to pretend to be a disciple of River Luo Sacred Sect. "Yes, it's me. I was ordered to investigate the situation, and was about to rush back to the sect. I didn't expect to meet you here. It's really a blessing." Ning Cheng didn't remove his disguise. As long as Kong Ning knew what he meant, it didn't matter. Yu Xing didn't expect Ning Cheng to be a disciple of River Luo Sacred Sect. He also saw that Ning Cheng had changed his appearance. Even Kong Ning called this cultivator senior apprentice brother. Since this cultivator in front of him was from River Luo Sacred Sect, was there any need to doubt him? "Junior apprentice Sister Kong Ning, I have an urgent matter to attend to, but the teleportation array to the Grand Essence domain isn't open right now. I can't leave for a while." Ning Cheng said it directly. He believed that the closure of the teleportation array had something to do with this city Lord Yu. Kong Ning didn't ask Ning Cheng about the urgent matter, and only looked at Yu Xing. Yu Xing spoke up in embarrassment, because Lubao Chamber of Commerce also contributed to the construction of the teleportation array. Now that Lubao Chamber of Commerce has asked to close the teleportation array for 3 months, I can't ignore this favor. Fortunately, there's only less than half a month left, otherwise. Ning Cheng sneered in his heart. Favor? Was it an exchange of benefits? City Lord Yu, although this matter makes things difficult for you, I have no other choice. I must bring my things back to the sect as soon as possible. I hope, Sect Master, you can forgive me for the inconvenience. After Ning Cheng spoke politely, he took out a jade box and handed it to Yu Xing with both hands. City Lord Yu, this represents the meaning of my sect. After confirming that Ning Cheng was from River Luo Sacred Sect, Yu Xing hesitated. It wasn't a wise thing to offend River Luo Sacred Sect. Even if River Luo Sacred Sect was far away from here, they would quickly find out about it. His spiritual consciousness fell into Ning Cheng's jade box, and he quickly reached out and took it. Many thanks, Dao friend Ning. Ning Cheng's jade box didn't have any restrictions, and it contained a Dan. Although the Scarlet Heart Zoisha fruit was a Dao transformation Dao fruit, it was still very useful to him. Even if he didn't use it, he would still be able to earn a large sum of divine crystals by auctioning it off. Then I'll go back with senior apprentice brother Ning. Kong Ning spoke up in time. After she finished speaking, she looked at Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng should have already known about her mission here. If Ning Cheng knew about the situation of Planet 5 Elements, then he would definitely let her go back with him. If Ning Cheng was not clear about it, he would have said it. Ning Cheng understood Kong Ning's meaning. After Kong Ning finished, he quickly spoke up. It would be best if junior apprentice sister Kong Ning could accompany me back. Yu Xing put away the jade box and chuckled. The two of you are from the River Luo Sacred Sect, so naturally, you are not within the range where teleportation is prohibited. Please follow me. Ning Cheng felt overjoyed and quickly sent a sound transmission to Kong Ning. How many spirit crystals does it cost to teleport? Kong Ning immediately replied. For the disciples of the 10 great academies, the teleportation is half price. For the two of us, it's 3 million spirit crystals. Ning Cheng couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He took out a ring and handed it to Yu Xing. City Lord Yu, these are the spirit crystals that junior apprentice sister and I need for teleportation. Yu Xing's spiritual consciousness swept through the ring and found that it contained 6 million spirit crystals. He quickly spoke up. You are the disciples of the River Luo Sacred Sect, so it's only half price. Ning Cheng put the ring in Yu Xing's hand and said, because of the urgency of the matter, we have to trouble City Lord Yu. It's only right for us to pay the full price. Yu Xing's view of Ning Cheng changed drastically. There weren't many disciples like Ning Cheng who came from the 10 great academies and still treated him with such courtesy. The three of them had just walked out of the teleportation tower when a red light descended, and Yu Xing grabbed it. It was a messenger flying sword. Yu Xing's spiritual consciousness swept through the flying sword, but he didn't find anything unusual on his face. He just smiled and said to Ning Cheng and Kong Ning, I have something to do now. I'll only be back for half an hour at most. You can wait here for a while. Seeing Yu Xing leave, Ning Cheng's expression suddenly turned ugly. He guessed that the messenger flying sword most likely had something to do with Deacon Gorge. Since it had something to do with Deacon Gorge, it most likely had something to do with him. Kong Ning could see that Ning Cheng was a little anxious and asked with a sound transmission, what happened? Ning Cheng replied with a sound transmission, are you going to investigate the 5-element chaos chi on Planet 5 Elements? Kong Ning nodded. Yes, I just finished my Dao sculpting and stabilized my cultivation. So I took a task that was quite far away and used it to gain some experience. Since I'm banned from going out for 3 months, I didn't care about it and decided to stay here for more than a month. Ning Cheng whispered, there's no need to go. Planet 5 Elements itself is a conspiracy. A powerful essence spirit wants to use the spiritual roots and Dao charm foundation of the cultivators who went to Planet 5 Elements to restore their strength. But because too many people went to Planet 5 Elements this time, That essence spirit ended up overreaching, and many people ended up snatching the 5-element chaos chi. Is there really 5-element chaos chi? Kong Ning almost screamed. She came from a big sect and naturally knew about the preciousness of 5-element chaos chi. Ning Cheng replied, "It's true. If it weren't for some problems, I'm afraid that no one who went to Planet 5 Elements would have survived." Ning Cheng's words weren't an exaggeration. The reason why the essence spirit went into such a mess was that Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness was too powerful, and the existence of the dark nether devouring spirit scroll. Without a starry sky sea of consciousness, even with the dark nether devouring spirit scroll, there was no way to survive. Ning Cheng had prevented the essence spirit from condensing and consumed the torrent of essence spirit's attack on the sea of consciousness, which gave others the opportunity to snatch the 5-element chaos chi and escape. Otherwise, according to the steps of the essence spirit, no one who entered Planet 5 Elements could have escaped. In fact, in addition to these reasons, Ning Cheng had arranged a teleportation array before entering Planet 5 Elements. Without the teleportation array, even if Ning Cheng obtained the 5-element chaos chi, he might not have been able to escape. Similarly, if the essence spirit hadn't condensed a giant hand out of anger to grab Ning Cheng and consumed too much energy, the rest of the cultivators who entered Planet 5 Elements wouldn't have been able to escape. With so many impossible things happening to Ning Cheng, one could only say that the fellow on Planet 5 Elements was just too unlucky. "Then what's the matter with you?" Kong Ning asked again. The Ning Cheng she knew rarely showed such an anxious expression. Therefore, she had to ask about it. "The news that I might have 5-element chaos chi on me reached a Dao Essence Holy Emperor of Le Bao Chamber of Commerce. Therefore, that Dao Essence Holy Emperor asked City Lord Yu to seal off the teleportation array and wait for him to arrive. If I hadn't met you, I'm afraid I would have had to fight against that Dao Essence Holy Emperor." Ning Cheng didn't say another sentence. That flying messenger sword had left Ning Cheng feeling a little scared. Hearing Ning Cheng's words, Kong Ning felt a little scared. "You're too bold. If I wasn't here, wouldn't you have died?" Ning Cheng smiled. "I wouldn't have died. It would have just wasted my trump card. I'm afraid that I would have to head to the Grand Essence Sea." Before seeing Kong Ning, Ning Cheng had already prepared to bring out the bead condensed from the spiritual consciousness. With that bead, even a late-stage Dao Essence cultivator like Yuxing couldn't stop him from leaving. Not to mention that Yuxing was only slightly stronger than Deacon Xia. As for the Spirit Sea City's defensive array, it wouldn't stop him. At worst, he wouldn't participate in the 5 Realms pill meet, and could just cross the Grand Essence Sea. It's just that he couldn't bear to part with that bead. That bead could save his life at a critical time. Ning Cheng naturally didn't want to use it casually. Ning Cheng took out 2 jade bottles and handed them to Kong Ning. "There are medicinal pills for cultivation, and a miraculous crossing Dao pill. You might need it when you reach the Dao birth realm in the future." Kong Ning knew that Ning Cheng was a Dao Essence pill saint. Therefore, she refused Ning Cheng's things with a red face. "I haven't even returned the points I lent you last time. How can I accept your things?" Ning Cheng stuffed the jade bottles into Kong Ning's hands. "I'm afraid I can't use the teleportation array to leave. If I'm not wrong, the flying messenger sword that Yuxing just received should have something to do with me. It's most likely sent by Deacon Xia from Le Bao Chamber of Commerce. Even if he confirmed that I'm a disciple of River Luo Sacred Sect, City Lord Yu would still take action. He dares. If he dares to touch my River Luo Sacred Sect, he'll die." Kong Ning spoke with the confidence of a disciple of a big sect. She wasn't speaking nonsense. If someone knew that she was a disciple of River Luo Sacred Sect and dared to make a move, they would truly die. Don't look at how Ning Cheng killed Guahauga. At that time, Ning Cheng had a legitimate reason to do so. Otherwise, how could he still be alive? Ning Cheng was just about to speak when he heard someone speak up from the side. "Kong Ning, who dares to touch my River Luo Sacred Sect's disciple?" Only then did Kong Ning see 3 more people coming out of the teleportation tower. She quickly stepped forward and bowed. Kong Ning greets Master. "Why is Master here?" When Ning Cheng saw the 3 people coming over, he immediately knew that the situation wasn't good. The female cultivator that Kong Ning called Master was definitely a Tao Essence powerhouse. Ning Cheng also knew the other two, but they didn't have a good relationship with him. One was Tong Mingzi, and the other was Shan Yaotzen. This was bad. If Ning Cheng had faced a Tao Essence Holy Emperor, he would have had the confidence to escape. But now that he had to face several Tao Essence Holy Emperors, he had no chance at all. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness forcibly broke through the restrictions and swept out. He then saw Yu Xing coming over with Deacon Gorge beside him. Dao friend Kong Ning, I'll take my leave first. By the way, please help me get the things I need. Ning Cheng turned around and left. Since he couldn't leave through the teleportation array, he only had one way out now. That is to leave the Divine Sea City and enter the Grand Essence Sea. Kong Ning knew what Ning Cheng was talking about. It was the thing he gave to Yu Xing. Now that River Luo Sacred Sect had two Tao Essence Holy Emperors here, it would be a piece of cake to take back Yu Xing's things. Unfortunately, no matter how anxious she felt, she couldn't help Ning Cheng. Help me drag Yu Xing and that Deacon Gorge with him. As Ning Cheng's back disappeared, Kong Ning received another voice transmission from Ning Cheng. Chapter 1032. Dao Friend Luo, Dao Friend Tong Mingzi. It really makes Yu Xing happy to have the two of you visit the Divine Sea City. Please take a seat in the City Lord's mansion. Yu Xing immediately recognized Tong Mingzi and Kong Ning's master. Haha, the City Lord, you only welcome people from River Luo Sacred Sect and not us. While talking, several people walked out of the teleportation tower. Yu Xing saw a few Tao Essence powerhouses from the 10 major sects among these people, and quickly cupped his fists to invite them to the City Lord's mansion as guests. Kong Ning had been paying attention to Deacon Gorge. When she saw Deacon Gorge trying to retreat when Yu Xing greeted him, she hurriedly called out, Dao friend, please wait. You don't welcome my River Luo Sacred Sect. Could it be that you were the one who wanted to attack me previously? What? You dared to kill my disciple? Kong Ning's master looked like a gentle woman, but had an extremely bad temper. After hearing Kong Ning's words, she suddenly became furious and stepped forward. Her aura immediately suppressed Deacon Gorge. She had been in seclusion for many years, and had almost never cared about Kong Ning. One could say that Kong Ning didn't receive any benefits from her. Now that Kong Ning had succeeded in Tao sculpting through her own efforts, she naturally felt a little apologetic and protective towards Kong Ning. Deacon Gorge felt extremely anxious. He had heard from Yu Xing that Kong Ning suddenly had a senior apprentice brother, but he didn't see Kong Ning's senior apprentice brother beside her. Ning Cheng could silently break through the spiritual consciousness shielding restrictions here, but he couldn't do the same. If Ning Cheng was discovered, he could at most escape. As a deacon of the Sea Sky Pavilion, once he was discovered to have forcibly broken through the restrictions in the Divine Sea City, it would turn into a diplomatic dispute. Yu Xing naturally didn't want to see the River Luo Sacred City's people clash with the Sea Sky Pavilion Chamber of Commerce here. Therefore, he quickly changed the topic and asked, Dao friend Kong Ning, where's your senior apprentice brother? Since he's also from River Luo Sacred Sect, let's go to my City Lord's mansion. Since Dao friend Luo and Dao friend Tong Mingzi are here, I don't think he needs to rush back to the sect, right? Yu Xing naturally did it on purpose. After listening to Deacon Gorge's words, he vaguely felt that there was something wrong with Ning Cheng. City Lord Yu, he has something to take care of. By the way, he said that since you can't help him, he wants you to temporarily give me the thing he gave you before. Kong Ning said quickly. In the face of Kong Ning's request, Yu Xing naturally didn't dare to disagree. He could only return Ning Cheng's ring and the Dao fruit to Kong Ning. He even felt a little regretful. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have bothered with the messenger flying sword, and would have just sent the two of them away. Now he had lost a Dao fruit and millions of divine crystals for nothing. Someone from my River Luo Sacred Sect is here? Who is it? Tong Mingzi was confused when he heard Kong Ning's vague answer. When Yu Xing heard Tong Mingzi's words, coupled with the previous hints from Deacon Gorge, he grew even more suspicious. He simply said, a while ago, Dao friend Ning came here and said that he was from River Luo Sacred Sect. He wanted to take the teleportation array to the Grand Essence domain. Later, Dao friend Kong Ning confirmed that he was from River Luo Sacred Sect. Kong Ning spoke up with an ugly expression. City Lord, you can't talk nonsense. When did I say he was from River Luo Sacred Sect? He's just a friend of mine. I've always called him senior brother. Yuxing froze for a moment. Then he recalled Kong Ning's words. Kong Ning indeed didn't directly say that the cultivator surnamed Ning was from River Luo Sacred Sect. Instead, she just called him senior brother. Yuxing knew that Kong Ning's words and actions made him misunderstand that this cultivator surnamed Ning was from River Luo Sacred Sect. But he couldn't do anything to Kong Ning. When Deacon Gorge heard this, he immediately knew that things had taken a turn for the worse. He no longer cared about offending anyone and spoke up. I suddenly have something urgent to attend to. Dao friends, please excuse me. I'll come back to apologize after I'm done. After saying that, Deacon Gorge's figure flashed and disappeared. Watching Deacon Gorge disappear, Kong Ning could only sigh. She could only help up to this point. She couldn't delay Deacon Gorge any longer. Ning Cheng was even more direct this time. He quickly arrived at the entrance of the Spirit Sea City's defensive array and activated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds to rush out. By the time the 4 cultivators guarding the entrance reacted, Ning Cheng had already disappeared without a trace. By the time Deacon Gorge rushed to the exit of the defensive array, Ning Cheng's starry sky will had already entered the depths of the Grand Essence Sea. Deacon Gorge's face turned gloomy. He knew that he could no longer chase after Ning Cheng. He couldn't get angry. After all, the Spirit Sea City wasn't his. A few days later, Ning Cheng slowed down. Although Deacon Gorge wasn't in a good mood, he also wasn't in a good mood. Crossing the Grand Essence Sea, Ning Cheng didn't know when he would reach the Grand Essence domain. Not to mention that he couldn't participate in the 5 Realms pill competition. He wouldn't be able to save Chung Hotian in time. Chung Hotian suffered from the pattern bone poison because of him. Moreover, Chung Hotian was a full-circle Dao Essence cultivator. Therefore, Ning Cheng didn't care about wasting a few years. No matter how powerful the pattern bone poison was, it couldn't kill a Dao Essence Holy Emperor in a few years. Not to mention that Chung Hotian was a Dao transformation pill saint. Now that he was forced to cross the Grand Essence Sea, he couldn't guarantee that he could detoxify Chung Hotian in time. Ning Cheng felt helpless. If he had known earlier, he would have given a medicinal pill to Ba Meng. He had already asked Ba Meng to do one thing for him. In fact, that thing was to help Chung Hotian bring the sky-extending Mark Bone pill. It's just that he didn't expect that something would happen to him in the Dark Nether Realm. Now, not to mention how long it would take him to cross the Grand Essence Sea. The Grand Essence Sea contained many dangers. Whether he could cross it or not was another matter. While Ning Cheng was still thinking about how to cross the Grand Essence Sea, the densely packed Haizi demons had already surrounded him. Ning Cheng had seen Haizi demonic beasts before, but he didn't know much about them. These demonic beasts had 2 wings and 6 feet, and their main attacks were ice blades and water thorns. What made people disgusted was that the ice blades and water thorns of these demonic beasts were highly toxic. Ning Cheng had only seen a few dozen Haizi demonic beasts before, but now hundreds of millions of Haizi demonic beasts appeared around him. Even the most powerful Haizi demonic beasts had a cultivation close to Dao sculpting Holy Emperor. Although these Haizi demonic beasts didn't understand Dao laws, they couldn't handle so many of them. Not understanding Dao laws, and the great Dao didn't mean that their attacks didn't contain the laws of heaven and earth. Any living creature that cultivated to a certain level would resonate with the laws of heaven and earth. Even if they didn't comprehend it, they would have an instinct. The Haizi demonic beasts were such demonic beasts, and their demonic poison belonged to one of the laws of heaven and earth. Ning Cheng shot out one time wheel after another, and the power of the time wheel was fully reflected in this place. No matter how powerful the Haizi demonic beasts were, when the time wheel swept past them, it would only create a vacuum filled with blood mist. But this vacuum would be filled by new Haizi demonic beasts in an instant, and the endless attacks would once again rush towards Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng had already brought out the everlasting Blue Thunder Fort. Facing such a terrifying and intensive attack, if he only used his domain to resist, he would most likely die of exhaustion. The Haizi demonic beasts didn't fear death at all. No matter how many died, more high-Z demonic beasts would fill the gap. Not only the nearby high-Z demonic beasts, but as the smell of blood spread out, the high-Z demonic beasts in the distance also flocked towards him. As the overwhelming number of high-Z demonic beasts rushed over, Ningqing killed even more of them. In the end, even some of the other demonic beasts rushed over. In just half an hour, the sea within tens of thousands of miles of the sea was filled with demonic beasts. The space around Ningqing was filled with the high-Z demonic beasts, and he couldn't even see the gaps outside. As Ningqing continued to kill, the debris of the high-Z demonic beasts covered this part of the sea. No matter how many time wheels blasted out, they couldn't open up a path of blood. Ningqing finally stopped. Once the number of demonic beasts reached a certain level, it would undergo a qualitative change. Unless he had the ability to connect heaven and earth, he could wipe out all life within 100,000 miles with a wave of his hand. Maybe he could do it in a low-level law-based interface, and he could even crush a planet with a wave of his hand. But in a law-based interface like the Grand Essence Realm, he couldn't do it. If he continued to kill, he would either die under the siege of these sea demons, or attract even more powerful sea demons. On the periphery of these high-Z demonic beasts, a man and a woman watched as the high-Z demonic beasts besieged Ningqing. The man's long hair was tied into an immortal bun, and he had a jade-like face. The woman not only had a tall figure, but she also had a curvaceous figure. Her slightly tight-fitting clothes highlighted her slender waist. She had a beautiful, flawless face, which was enough to make any woman jealous. She had an enchanting figure, a beautiful face, and a dignified demeanor. The man and woman stood in the void, looking like a pair of celestial couples, elegant and refined. Brother man, why do you think the high-Z demonic beasts are attacking this person so crazily? The woman looked at the high-Z demonic beasts rushing towards Ningqing and asked softly. The man called Brother Man pondered for a moment before speaking. There are only two explanations. One is that this person offended the high-Z demonic beasts, and the other is that this person has something that the high-Z demonic beasts desire. At this point, Brother Man paused for a moment before continuing. The high-Z demonic beasts are most sensitive to innate origin and primal chaos aura. I heard that a 5 elements planet appeared on the edge of the Grand Essence Realm recently, and the 5 elements planet contains primal chaos chi of the 5 elements. Although the primal chaos chi of the 5 elements isn't pure primal chaos aura, it's still extremely powerful. Could it be? Brother Man stopped, but the woman already understood what Brother Man meant. Brother Man, you mean? Brother Man nodded. Yes, as long as this person stayed in the primal chaos chi of the 5 elements, the primal chaos chi of the 5 elements would remain in his body for a short time. I have to save this person. Okay, let's do it together, the beautiful woman quickly said. With Ningqing's spiritual consciousness, the reason why he didn't want to continue attacking was not only because he couldn't kill the high-Z demonic beasts, but also because a man and a woman were watching him from a distance. The high-Z demonic beasts didn't attack the man and woman, but only attacked him, which made Ningqing puzzled. Ningqing was just about to bring out the first bridge of coping. This time, he didn't bring out the first bridge of coping purely to kill the high-Z demonic beasts, but to use the first bridge of coping to cross the high-Z demonic beasts and escape. But at this moment, he saw the man and woman make their move. Chapter 1033. The male cultivator was at the late-stage Tao birth while the female cultivator was at the mid-stage Tao birth. Ningqing believed that even if these two people besieged him, he would still be able to easily kill them. Now, even he couldn't kill the Hei's demon. Could these two be able to? The facts soon forced Ningqing to believe that these two people really could do it. The two Saint Emperors did not even take out their magic treasures. The male cultivator just took out a fire dragon spirit technique, and the Heizi demons all moved aside. Some of the Heizi demons who couldn't move away in time were directly killed by the fire dragon. The female cultivator did not do anything and just followed behind the male cultivator. Could it be that the Heizi demons were afraid of fire? Ningqing had some doubts in his heart. In terms of fire god art, he had it too. His maximal flame spiritual art was originally a spiritual art that simulated the spatial laws, but now he had completely changed it into a fire spiritual art. Moreover, his celestial river flame was much more powerful compared to this male cultivator's flame. Could it be that the fire dragon he shot out was even stronger than the time wheel? Ningcheng did not try to bring out the celestial river flame. His spiritual consciousness could sense that the fire dragon spirit technique brought out by this male cultivator contained another kind of aura. It wasn't the fire dragon god art that forced them back, it was the aura that forced them back. This Dao friend, if you don't mind, please come with us. The male cultivator's speed was very fast, and in less than half an incense stick worth of time, they had already arrived within a few kilometers of Ningcheng. Not only that, other than some other demonic beasts, there were almost no Heizi demons in the passageway that his fire dragon opened up. Ningcheng didn't stand on ceremony, nor did he bring out the first bridge of coping. Instead, a time wheel swept out and landed not far from the male and female sage emperors before cupping his fists. Many thanks for your help. The male cultivator smiled and said, even if I don't take action, Dao friend definitely has a way to escape. This isn't the place to talk. Let's find another place to talk. While speaking, the male cultivator summoned a flying ship and flew out of the tunnel that had yet to be closed by the Heizi monster. Ningcheng also brought out the starry sky wheel and followed behind this male cultivator. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, there were no more sea demons around the three of them, not even a single sea demon. My name is Jiang Man, this is my Dao companion Mu Yueping. If Dao friend doesn't mind, you can come to my airship. After rushing out of the horde of Heizi demons, the male cultivator stopped the airship and invited Ningcheng with cupped fists. Ningcheng put away the starry sky wheel without hesitation and landed on Jiang Man's airship with a single step. He then spoke up again. Rogue cultivator Ningcheng, many thanks for the help from the two Dao friends. Seeing Ningcheng land on his airship without even the slightest bit of defense, Jiang Man felt somewhat puzzled in his heart. Was this Ningcheng really that careless? A Dao molding divine emperor dared to get on the ship of two Dao nourishment divine emperors? Ningcheng saw Jiang Man's doubts, but he did not care about it. Jiang Man and Mu Yueping's cultivation level was only at the Dao birth realm, so the restrictions on this flying boat were ordinary in his eyes. Even if Jiang Man and Mu Yueping attacked him, he could easily kill the two of them. Mu Yueping also felt a little surprised, but she immediately smiled and spoke to Ningcheng. Elder brother man said that even if we don't do anything, Dao friend Ning can easily escape. Fellow Daoist Ning must be wondering how we were able to break through the encirclement of the Hei's monsters so easily, right? In fact, in the Grand Essence Sea, the Hei's monsters are the most difficult to deal with and the easiest to deal with. They are difficult to deal with because the Hei's monsters move in groups. Once they move out, they are boundless and have no fear of death. The more they die, the more they can be replenished. Jiang Man said with a smile, while inviting Ningcheng to sit down. Ningcheng had just sat down when Mu Yueping poured a cup of spirit tea for Ningcheng. Then why do you say that the Hei's monsters are easy to deal with? Ningcheng asked in confusion. Jiang Man chuckled. Because the Hei's monsters are most afraid of the Thousand Color Stone's aura. As long as a cultivator infuses the Thousand Color Stone's aura into a spirit technique when attacking the Hei's monsters, the Hei's monsters will immediately escape. My previous attack had also infused the Thousand Color Stone's aura, and the Hei's monsters were able to dodge to the side. Ningcheng suddenly understood. No wonder only the Hei's monsters hid to the side when Jiang Man attacked, and the other sea demons didn't have much of an impact. This is the Thousand Color Stone. Jiang Man took out a stone and placed it on the table. Ningcheng picked up the stone and looked at it. He found that the stone looked very ordinary, but the colors on it were all over the place. If I didn't guess wrong, Dao friend Ning should have been to Five Elements planet, and even seen the primal chaos chi. The Hei's monsters are most sensitive to innate origins and primal chaos chi. Cultivators can't feel this kind of aura, but the Hei's monsters can. Jiang Man said with a smile. Ningcheng suddenly understood. No wonder the Hei's monsters didn't spare him. However, Ningcheng knew that it wasn't because of the primal chaos chi in his body, but because of the starry sky wheel. Ningcheng felt even more confident in his cultivation method and senses. He believed that after such a long time, he wouldn't be able to feel the five elements origin qi anymore. If the mysterious yellow formless couldn't even do this, then it wouldn't be a top-notch cultivation method. Because he had been on the run, he didn't care about the starry sky wheel. After he rushed out of Five Elements Planet, he brought the Five Elements origin qi to the starry sky wheel, and kept it there. Many thanks for Dao Frenjiang's reminder. I have indeed been to Five Elements Planet. Because of this, I ended up being chased into the Grand Essence Sea. If it weren't for the two Dao friends, I might still be trapped by the Hei's monsters. After understanding the reason, Ningqing felt relieved. Jiang Man's eyes lit up when he heard Ningqing's words. He seemed to want to say something but hesitated for a long time. Ningqing naturally understood Jiang Man's intentions. So without waiting for Jiang Man to speak, he took the initiative to speak. Dao friend Jiang, I heard that the Grand Essence Sea is extremely dangerous. Moreover, the northernmost part of the Grand Essence Sea is filled with sea demons without any spiritual wisdom. Why would the two of you appear here? After Jiang Man heard Ningqing's words, he smiled. Dao friend Ning, you shouldn't come here often, right? The northernmost part of the Grand Essence Sea is barren, but there is a secret bazaar here. We are going to the secret bazaar. Secret bazaar? Ningqing looked at Jiang Man in doubt. Jiang Man patiently explained. The secret bazaar in the north of the Grand Essence Sea is about a month's journey away from the Spirit Sea City. It mainly sells or trades things that can't see the light of day. Ningqing instantly understood and asked, is it similar to a place to dispose of stolen goods? Jiang Man nodded with a smile. Some of the treasures obtained from the edge of the Grand Essence Sea don't dare to sell them in the big cities. Therefore, they choose to sell them in the secret bazaar. Moreover, some of the rewards that can't see the light of day are also posted in the secret bazaar. Not to mention that many people from the edge of the Grand Essence Sea go to the secret bazaar, even some sects from the Grand Essence Sea, and some sects from the Grand Essence Domain come to the secret bazaar. Ningqing understood Jiang Man's words. Some disciples from big sects had very valuable treasures. Once these people died, these valuable treasures couldn't be sold openly. Therefore, they would choose to sell them in the secret bazaar. However, Ningqing immediately grasped the main point of Jiang Man's words and quickly asked, Dao friend Jiang, I can understand if you say that someone from the Grand Essence Sea goes to the secret bazaar. But how far is the Grand Essence Domain from here? Why would someone come to the secret bazaar? Did he take the teleportation array to the Spirit Sea City before coming to the secret bazaar? Jiang Man shook his head. To go to the secret bazaar from the Grand Essence Domain, one doesn't necessarily have to pass through the Spirit Sea City. Some people can also go to the secret bazaar through the Grand Essence Sea. It's just that it's a bit more troublesome. Please enlighten me. Ningqing stood up and cupped his fists. Dao friend Ning, please take a seat. From the Grand Essence Domain to the secret bazaar, one has to go through several teleportation arrays. The Grand Essence Domain's Thousand Leaves Sacred City has a teleportation array that connects directly to the Grand Essence Sea's Sunken Fish Palace. The Sunken Fish Palace also has a teleportation array that connects directly to the Silver Dragon Clan. After reaching the Silver Dragon Clan, one can also teleport to the Sea Dragon Sacred City. The Sea Dragon Sacred City has an ultra-long-distance teleportation array that connects directly to the secret bazaar. Jiang Man replied in detail. Ningqing felt ecstatic. This meant that he could go to the Grand Essence Domain without going through the Spirit Sea City's teleportation array. Whether it was the Sunken Fish Palace or the Silver Dragon Clan, he had a good relationship with them. Moreover, if he passed through their territory, no one would deliberately stop him. Dao friend Jiang, what is the Sea Dragon Sacred City? Ningqing asked with gratitude. Jiang Man still explained patiently. When the Grand Essence Realm was still in its perfect state, there were 10 dragon clans in the Grand Essence Sea. The Sea Dragon Sacred City is a huge sea city jointly built by the 10 dragon clans. There used to be a saying that in the Sea Dragon Sacred City, there are only things you can't think of, but nothing you can't buy. What a big tone. Ningqing sighed. How dare he say such words? Did the Sea Dragon Sacred City also have good fortune treasures? Jiang Man smiled and said, of course it was a long time ago. The Grand Essence Realm's laws have shattered, and the 10 dragon clans of the Grand Essence Sea have now withered. Only the Barbarian Dragon Clan and the Silver Dragon Clan remain. The 5-clawed Divine Dragon Clan, which once dominated the entire Grand Essence realm, has disappeared. Although the current Sea Dragon Sacred City is still prosperous, it's far from what it used to be. After that, Jiang Man looked at Ning Cheng with a smile. Does Brother Ning want to go to the Grand Essence domain through the Grand Essence Sea? Ning Cheng didn't hide it and said directly, yes, a powerhouse chased me to the Grand Essence Sea. I can only go to the Grand Essence domain through here. The two of us are going to the secret bazaar. Let's go together. Jiang Man invited. Ning Cheng didn't know how to go to the secret bazaar, so how could he refuse Jiang Man's invitation? Many thanks, Dao friend Jiang. I also plan to go to the secret bazaar. If it weren't for you and your wife, I wouldn't have known about the existence of the secret bazaar. The secret bazaar has many powerhouses, and there are no rules of conduct. Dao friend Ning should be careful. Jiang Man tried to persuade Ning Cheng after hearing his words. Even without Jiang Man's persuasion, Ning Cheng knew to keep a low profile. He was afraid that the Deacon Gorge would guess that he would go to the secret bazaar and wait for him there. Dao friend Ning, I have a presumptuous request. After Jiang Man answered Ning Cheng's words, he hesitated for a while before speaking up. Dao friend Jiang, please speak. Ning Cheng got a lot of information from Jiang Man and was in a good mood. He could guess what Jiang Man wanted, but he didn't know how to refuse. After all, Jiang Man didn't exchange the information he already knew. Instead, he told Ning Cheng the truth, which made Ning Cheng feel awkward. I don't know if Dao friend Ning has any 5-element chaos chi on you. I want to buy some fire-attributed chaos chi from Dao friend Ning. Jiang Man stood up and bowed to Ning Cheng. Chapter 1034. Ning Cheng looked at Jiang Man in doubt. Dao friend Jiang, there's no one else here. You and your wife have far higher cultivation than me. Since you've determined that I have the 5-element chaos chi, why don't you just rob me? Why do you choose to exchange with me? Despite what he said, Ning Cheng still suspected that Jiang Man would take out something to exchange with him. The 5-element chaos chi wasn't an ordinary thing, and it couldn't be exchanged for casually. After Jiang Man heard Ning Cheng's words, his face immediately turned serious as he spoke. Dao friend Ning, could it be that when you meet a cultivator with a lower cultivation than you would choose to rob them? Ning Cheng smiled. I have my own principles, and I won't go as far as robbing others. Could it be that the two of you have the same principles as me? Jiang Man spoke with admiration. There aren't many cultivators like Dao friend Ning who have their own principles. I cultivate the Tao of karma. Everything has its own cause and effect. If I rob Dao friend Ning today, someone will rob me in the future. Karma is the cycle of retribution. Ning Cheng suddenly felt moved. As a Tao sculpting holy emperor, who had been in the Grand Essence realm for a long time, he had naturally heard of the Tao of karma. It was definitely one of the strongest Taos in the world. Most of the Taos in the world had karmic entanglements. The reason why his grand Tao of returning to one didn't have karmic entanglements wasn't because he was strong, but because of his mysterious yellow bead. An inexplicable thought suddenly appeared in Ning Cheng's consciousness. He had the mysterious yellow bead, which meant that he might become a supreme powerhouse in the future. Didn't that mean that there was a karmic connection between him and the mysterious yellow bead? It was just that the karmic connection between him and the mysterious yellow bead was so high that it surpassed all other karmic connections. Ning Cheng quickly put this thought aside and said with cupped fists, I've heard that the Tao of karma is the strongest Tao in the world. Congratulations, Brother Jiang. Jiang Man shook his head with a bitter smile. I'm just putting gold on my face. Although I cultivate the Tao of karma, I haven't touched the edge of the Tao of karma so far. Ning Cheng asked in confusion. Brother Jiang should have a Tao birth realm cultivation, right? As a Tao birth holy emperor, Brother Jiang hasn't even touched the edge of the Tao of karma? Jiang Man looked at Ning Cheng with a serious expression and asked, Has Dao friend Ning heard of the 10 grand spirit techniques of the vast universe? Ning Cheng remembered the words he had heard before and immediately said, Is it true that Tai Chi has yin and yang, grand essence spirit thunder, Grand beginning has spirit light, grand beginning has spirit marks, and grand change has formlessness? Dao Friend Ning is only partially correct. Although I don't know the complete list of the top 10 spirit techniques, I do know that the Tai Chi Yin Yang spirit technique and the Grand Essence spirit technique aren't within the top 10 spirit techniques. Jiang Man said flatly. Ning Qing knew nothing about this kind of thing. Now that Jiang Man mentioned it, he quickly asked, "Please enlighten me, elder brother Jiang." Jiang Man said solemnly, "I don't know about the first and second sacred arts, but I do know that the third sacred art is the formless Tai and the karma sacred art is ranked fourth." Ning Qing had always thought that since the Grand Change realm was the number one spirit technique in the 5 realms, the Grand Change formless spirit technique should also be the number one spirit technique. According to Jiang Man, the formless Tai sacred art was only ranked third. What about the other spirit techniques? Ning Qing asked again. Jiang Man sighed. Although I cultivate the karma Dao, I only know about the karma spirit technique. Even if I tried to comprehend it until now, I still don't know anything about it. As for the 5th sacred art among the top 10, I also don't know what it is. However, I know about the 6th, 7th, and 8th sacred art. The 6th sacred art is the samsara spirit technique. The 7th sacred art is the grand essence spirit mark, and the 8th sacred art is the grand beginning spirit light. Ning Qing asked in surprise, "Dao Friend Jiang, as far as I know, the samsara spirit technique is only the 7th of the 7 bridges spirit techniques. How did the samsara spirit technique become the 6th sacred art, but the 7 bridges spirit technique doesn't?" Because of the shock from the top 10 spirit techniques, Ning Qing didn't understand the meaning behind Jiang Man's words. That is, he, Jiang Man, could comprehend the karma spirit technique, which naturally meant that he had the Dao method of the karma spirit technique. Jiang Man smiled and said, "I don't quite understand this. I know that Senior told me about it. Maybe the 7 bridges spirit technique is the 9th sacred art, or even the 10th. Ning Qing didn't ask again. He knew that since the samsara spirit technique was placed as the 6th sacred art, then the 7 bridges spirit technique would never enter the top 10. Dao Friend Jiang, I do have a little bit of the 5-element chaos chi, but even if I sell it to Dao Friend Jiang doesn't have anything to store it." Ning Qing finally answered Jiang Man's words. Jiang Man was a person worth trading with. Ning Qing didn't say how much he needed to exchange for the 5-element chaos chi. He knew that since Jiang Man cultivated the Dao of karma, he wouldn't treat him badly. Jiang Man took out a black strip made of unknown materials and handed it to Ning Qing. "Dao Friend Ning, this is the karma Dao strip I obtained. It contains the karma spirit technique. I want to lend this Dao strip to Brother Ning for 10,000 years in exchange for a trace of fire-attributed chaos chi. Brother Man." Mu Yueping on the side, on seeing Jiang Man take out the black strip, called out in surprise. She knew that this was the most valuable thing on Jiang Man. Ning Qing looked at the black Dao strip in Jiang Man's hand with a sluggish look. If this really was the karma Dao strip, then his trace of fire-attributed chaos chi was far from enough to exchange. Even if there was a time limit, it still wouldn't be enough. Jiang Man had said that the karma spirit technique was the 4th most powerful spirit technique in the vast universe. Jiang Man waved his hand at Mu Yueping and spoke to Ning Qing with a smile. "Dao Friend Ning, I cultivated the Dao of karma because of this Dao strip. The origin of this Dao strip is unknown, but I'm sure that this Dao strip contains the karma spirit technique. It's just that my aptitude is poor, and even after tens of thousands of years, I still couldn't obtain it. I can use this Dao strip for 10,000 years in exchange for a trace of fire-attributed chaos chi from Dao Friend Ning, which is a bargain." Ning Qing didn't take the Dao strip but asked in a deep voice, "Dao Friend Jiang, how will I return this Dao strip to you after 10,000 years?" Jiang Man felt satisfied with Ning Qing's words and nodded. "I cultivate the karma spirit technique, and this Dao strip contains my karma imprint. After 10,000 years, this Dao strip will automatically escape from Brother Ning's hands and return to me." Ning Qing showed a smile at the corner of his mouth. This Jiang Man truly had confidence in himself. Did he believe that he couldn't crack his karma imprint in 10,000 years? Besides, even if he couldn't crack it, he could just throw the Dao strip into the mysterious yellow bead, and the Dao strip wouldn't escape. However, Ningqing didn't intend to do so. If he couldn't comprehend the karma spirit technique in 10,000 years, then this Dao strip would have no use for him. Besides, the two sides had completed the transaction in a fair and proper manner, so he would never do such a shameless thing. Then how can I hand over the fire-attributed chaos qi to Dao friend Jiang? Ningqing appreciated Jiang Man's trading method. This was a completely honest transaction. Jiang Man didn't ask him how much fire-attributed chaos qi he wanted and gave him the initiative. Jiang Man spoke with a dignified voice. It will take a month to reach the secret bazaar from here. Brother Ning just needs to inject a trace of chaos qi into my zifu. Okay. Ningqing agreed without hesitation. 1 month was enough for Jiang Man to refine the trace of fire-attributed chaos qi. May I ask what is Dao friend Mu's main spiritual root? Ningqing didn't directly bring out the fire-attributed chaos qi, but instead asked Mu Yueping. Mu Yueping spoke up in doubt. I have a main metal spiritual root. Ningqing immediately spoke up. Well, I'll use a trace of fire origin chaos qi, and a trace of metal origin chaos qi in exchange for Brother Zhang's karma Dao strip for 10,000 years. When Jiang Man heard Ningqing's words, he understood that Ningqing didn't want to take advantage of him. In fact, he knew that Ningqing didn't want to take advantage of him. The karma spirit technique had a huge reputation, but it was too difficult to comprehend it. He said that his aptitude was poor, but so far he really hadn't seen anyone with a better aptitude than him, Jiang Man. Even he couldn't comprehend the karma spirit technique after tens of thousands of years, so how could Ningqing comprehend it? Then wouldn't we husband and wife? Jiang Man had a good impression of Ningqing. Ningqing waved his hand and said, Dao friend Jiang is too polite, but I can't be too stingy. Dao friend Jiang and Dao friend Mu should prepare to accept the 5-element chaos qi. Brother Man, I'll accept it later. Mu Yueping quickly spoke up. When Ningqing heard Mu Yueping's words, he immediately understood Mu Yueping's meaning. Mu Yueping felt afraid that the two of them would fall into the process of refining the 5-element chaos qi. Jiang Man also understood Mu Yueping's meaning. He waved his hand and said, No need. I'll have to trouble Dao friend Ning to protect us while we refine the 5-element chaos qi. After that, Jiang Man also took out a positional jade strip and handed it to Ningqing. At the same time, he also handed over the control of the airship to Ningqing. Jiang Man said these words and did these things because he believed in Ningqing's character. Moreover, he believed that even if Ningqing had any ulterior motives, he could stop him in time. Refining the 5-element chaos qi wasn't like going into seclusion. Mu Yueping listened to Jiang Man's words and understood Jiang Man's meaning. She nodded and said, Okay, then I'll have to trouble Dao friend Ning. Ningqing didn't say much. He directly took out the measureless gourd, grabbed a fire-attributed chaos qi from it, and slapped it into Jiang Man's glabella. Then he grabbed a metal-attributed chaos qi, and slapped it into Mu Yueping's glabella. Feeling the primal chaos aura coming from Ningqing, Jiang Man felt overjoyed. It was much more than what he had said. But before he could thank Ningqing, the raging fire-attributed chaos qi rushed into his zifu. At this moment he found that apart from refining the chaos qi, he couldn't do anything else. Jiang Man's heart sank slightly, and the joy he felt just now had long since disappeared. He saw that Mu Yueping, just like him, couldn't stand up at all. In other words, if Ningqing made a move now, he and Mu Yueping wouldn't have the slightest ability to resist. Ningqing giving out so much 5-element chaos qi at once put him and his wife in a predicament. He couldn't help but doubt it. Chapter 1035. Jiang Man's suspicions quickly subsided because he saw that Ningqing didn't do anything to him and his wife. Instead, he walked to the deck of the airship and stared at the endless grand essence sea. He and Mu Yueping glanced at each other and quickly closed their eyes, concentrating on refining this supreme opportunity that they had inadvertently obtained. Regardless of whether Ningqing had any bad intentions or not, they could not make a decision for him right now. Half a month passed by quickly. Ningqing followed the route given to him by Jiang Man, and unexpectedly encountered very few sea demons along the way. Occasionally, there were a few sea demons, but Ningqing easily killed them. However, this ship wasn't his, so he couldn't increase its speed. Brother Ning, if you think highly of me, Jiang Man, then we can be best friends in the future. Hearing Jiang Man's grateful voice from behind, Ning Cheng understood that Jiang Man had completely refined and absorbed the fire-attributed primal chaos qi. He turned around, cupped his fists and said, "Congratulations to Brother Jiang for your great improvement in cultivation. Since Brother Jiang has said so, we are friends from now on." Saying that, Ning Cheng removed the disguise on his face and spoke, "Since we are friends, then naturally I will let Elder Brother Jiang see my original appearance. I'm only acting like this to avoid being hunted down by others." Jiang Man's character was still very trustworthy to Ning Cheng. As such, Ning Cheng naturally would not refuse to make friends with Jiang Man. Over the years he had offended many powerful enemies, but he had also made many friends. Not to mention the graceful star mainlands Tsang Wei, Taishu Shi, Meng Jingxiu, Lan Shu, Fu Xingnan and the others, even the starry skies Jing Wuming, Pan Qian, Lanya, Song Saiha, and the others were all life and death friends. After coming to the Grand Essence Realm he got to know Qi Shizingxing, Cheng Hotian, Lu Fonglin, Kong Ning, Ruoshi Ba Meng, Lan Ruoli, Jian Sanshan and others. The Jiang Man in front of him was obviously someone worth befriending. I said that Big Brother Ning had a scholarly aura around him. How could he have a full beard on his face? Hee. Mu Yueping's soft laughter arrived. Apparently, she had also refined the metal-attributed origin qi. Since Ning Cheng and Jiang Man became friends, Mu Yueping naturally changed the way she addressed Ning Cheng as elder brother. The five-element chaos qi had greatly improved their strength. Jiang Man had directly reached the peak Dao birth, and this was just his superficial cultivation level. It was obvious how much the fire element chaos qi had affected him. Although Mu Yueping had not reached the late-stage Dao birth, her Dao birth Dao runes had strengthened a lot. After refining the chaos qi of the five elements, the three of them did not hide anything from each other. Jiang Man and Mu Yueping had always been cultivating in the Grand Essence realm. Although both of them were rogue cultivators, the inheritances they obtained were by no means trivial. Since they could survive in the Grand Essence Sea and reach the Dao Nourishment Holy Emperor realm, one could only imagine their strength. It was definitely not a cultivation machine that only knew how to cultivate in seclusion. Jiang Man and Mu Yueping also knew that Ning Cheng was an alchemy master, but they didn't know that Ning Cheng was a primordial Dao alchemy saint. The reason why he did not ask about it was because he knew that with Ning Cheng's cultivation and age, his level of alchemy would not be high. Ning Cheng learned a lot about the Grand Essence Sea from Jiang Man and Mu Yueping. The three of them chatted merrily as half a month passed by. "Brother Ning, in front of us is the entrance to the secret bazaar. Since this is your first time here, I will be your guarantor," Jiang Man said as he slowed down the airship. "All right." After chatting with everyone for more than 10 days, Ning Cheng already had a clear understanding of the secret bazaar. The first time he came here, he would need someone to introduce him or guarantee him. Otherwise, he would have to pay 5 million spirit crystals. If he wasn't familiar with someone, no one would help him guarantee him. Because if he caused trouble in the secret bazaar, if the secret bazaar couldn't find him, it would directly look for his guarantor. If it weren't for Jiang Man leading the way, Ning Cheng felt sure that he wouldn't have found the entrance to the secret bazaar. The place where Jiang Man stopped was a plain and unremarkable sea. There were no array formations or any special markings on the surface of the sea. Jiang Man could find this place only because the jade card in his hand pointed him to this location. Actually, the entrance to the secret bazaar changes frequently. If we want to come to the secret bazaar, we only need this jade card in our hand. After Jiang Man finished speaking to Ning Cheng, he raised his hand and brought out the jade card. On the originally calm sea surface, a teleportation platform suddenly appeared. Ning Cheng and the other two walked onto the platform, and the jade card that Jiang Man brought out once again turned into a ray of light. Then, the jade card fell into Jiang Man's hand. After the ray of light flickered, Ning Cheng and the other two disappeared. The sea surface where the three of them had stood before once again became the same as before. Such rich spirit qi. After Ning Cheng walked out of the teleportation array, he spoke with some surprise. He didn't expect that a place where people traded in secret would have such rich spirit qi. He was surrounded by black streets, and he could only see the range in front of him with his eyes. The places further away were completely blocked by shielding restrictions. In fact, many people live in the secret bazaar for a long time and cultivate here. As such, the spirit qi here is naturally abundant. Jiang Man explained while winking at Ningcheng. Ningcheng knew that although no one came looking for him, he was already being watched. Jiang Man wanted to take him to the secret bazaar's identity card. Jiang Man was reminding him not to comment on other things before this. With Jiang Man as a guarantor, Ningcheng easily got the identity card for the secret bazaar. Ningcheng didn't want to delay Jiang Man's matters. After getting the identity card, he said, "Brother Jiang, you can go to the secret bazaar to do your thing. With the identity card, I can teleport to the Sea Dragon Sacred City by myself." Jiang Man said with a solemn expression, "We were just trading, but now we're friends. Since someone is chasing you, I should accompany you to the Sea Dragon Sacred City." Ningcheng smiled and said, "As long as there's a way to teleport away from here, I won't be afraid of the guy chasing me. No matter how bold he is, he wouldn't dare to chase me to the Grand Essence domain." Ningcheng didn't talk big. With his current reputation, no one would dare to make a move against him in public, let alone an early-stage minor Dao Essence on the edge of the Grand Essence Sea. "Big Brother Ning, you should listen to Brother Man. After all, you haven't reached the Dao Birth Realm yet. And Brother Man is about to reach the full circle of the Dao Birth Realm." Even Mu Yueping on the side began to persuade Ningcheng. Ningcheng felt a little helpless. He couldn't say that although he was a Dao sculpting cultivator, he wouldn't fear the two of them together. "Brother Jiang, junior apprentice Sister Mu, you saw my flight-type weapon before. If I go alone, my flight-type weapon can move faster. Besides, the person I offended is a Dao Essence powerhouse. Even if the three of us join forces, we wouldn't be his opponent." Ningcheng's words were tantamount to saying that if my enemy chased me, it would be a Dao Essence powerhouse. Even if the three of us joined forces, it wouldn't help. Even if you followed me, you wouldn't be able to help. Jiang Man and Mu Yueping immediately understood Ningcheng's meaning. The two hesitated but didn't say anything to accompany Ningcheng. Ningcheng was right. If they faced a Dao Essence Holy Emperor, even if the two of them joined forces, they would still die. On the contrary, it would be easier for Ningcheng to escape alone. "Okay, then we'll send you to the teleportation array." Jiang Man was very straightforward. After understanding the truth, he immediately sent Ningcheng away. The Black Market's teleportation array to the Sea Dragon Sacred City wasn't used much, because the price was even more outrageous compared to the Spirit Sea City. Just teleporting from the Black Market to the Sea Dragon Sacred City required 5 million spirit crystals. After a few more teleportations, even without 10 million spirit crystals, it would still be quite far. "Brother Ning, you can go to the teleportation array. In a few years, we might also go to the Grand Essence domain." Jiang Man and Mu Yueping sent Ningcheng to the teleportation array. Ningcheng took out a jade bottle and handed it to Jiang Man. "Brother Jiang, junior apprentice Sister Mu will meet again. I'm an alchemy master, so I'll give these 2 medicinal pills to you." Jiang Man didn't care about it. He took the jade bottle and watched Ningcheng leave. "Brother Man, what kind of person do you think Big Brother Ning is?" After seeing Ningcheng off, Mu Yueping asked in a low voice. Jiang Man smiled and said, "Ningcheng is open and aboveboard. He's completely different from those unscrupulous people we've seen before. For him to obtain that thing, he's also a person with great luck. Becoming friends with him is my biggest gain from this trip to the secret bazaar." While talking, Jiang Man casually opened the jade bottle, but the next moment he instantly closed the jade bottle. "What's wrong?" Mu Yueping and Jiang Man had a tacit understanding. "It's 2 purple heaven Dao pills." Jiang Man replied, "Oh." The teleportation array from the secret bazaar to the Sea Dragon Sacred City was definitely an ultra-long distance teleportation array. Even with Ningcheng's cultivation, he still felt dizzy. As soon as Ningcheng walked out of the teleportation array, he felt the prosperity of the Sea Dragon Sacred City that Jiang Man spoke about. Before this, the most prosperous sacred city Ningcheng had ever seen was the Heaven Essence Sacred City. After coming to the Sea Dragon Sacred City and seeing the scenery here, Ningqing felt sure that the Heaven Essence Sacred City wasn't as prosperous as the Sea Dragon Sacred City. This was the scene after the Grand Essence Realm's laws shattered, and the Grand Essence Sea's 10 major dragon clans withered. Through this scene, Ningqing could already imagine how prosperous the Sea Dragon Sacred City was many years ago when the 10 major dragon clans were still around. Kneel. A sharp voice sounded from the distant street, and Ningqing saw the people around him step aside. In the middle of the spacious old street, a woman riding a flood dragon beast was whipping a tall man with disheveled hair. From the looks of it, the word kneel came from the woman riding the flood dragon beast. Most likely, the tall man with disheveled hair had offended her. Ningqing didn't care about it. There were too many such things, and he wasn't qualified to care about them. Because the teleportation array leading from the Sea Dragon Sacred City to the Silver Dragon Clan was not the same as the teleportation array leading to the Secret Bazaar. What he needed to do now was to reach the teleportation array leading to the Silver Dragon Clan as soon as possible. Just when Ningqing was about to turn around, he suddenly recognized the tall man with disheveled hair. He remembered that this fellow's name was Mo, and should be an ascetic monk type of martial cultivator. He had heard others say that Mo never caused trouble. He would only take action when others bullied him, and he couldn't take it anymore. Ningqing's gaze swept over Mo. He still had disheveled hair, was barefoot, and wore linen robes. He carried an iron rod on his back and had a gourd around his waist. Ningqing couldn't help but think that he hadn't changed at all since the first time he saw him. Although he had never spoken to martial cultivator Mo, Ningqing had always had a good impression of him. It was all because of Pan Qian. Ningqing always felt that Mo and Pan Qian were the same kind of people. Ningqing didn't expect that a martial cultivator like Mo could come this far, and even reach the Sea Dragon Sacred City. Chapter 1036. Originally, Ningqing didn't intend to make a move, but after seeing that this person was Mo, he immediately changed his mind. Mo's cultivation should be equivalent to the full circle eternal realm, while the woman riding the flood dragon should be at the middle stage Dao sculpting realm. No matter how powerful a martial cultivator was, Mo shouldn't be able to fight against a middle stage Dao sculpting realm cultivator with his eternal cultivation. Facing the woman's command to kneel, Mo just closed his mouth and didn't say a word. The woman's eyes showed a trace of sarcasm, and the whip came down again. If one were to say that the previous whip was just to give Mo some physical pain, then this whip would definitely be able to break one of Mo's arms. The whip contained the Dao charm laws. If it lashed out at a cultivator equivalent to the eternal realm, it would be strange if it didn't tear off an arm. Although Mo was just a martial cultivator, he obviously had extraordinary knowledge. When he saw the whip, he knew that he had lost an arm, but he still didn't move and even closed his eyes. Perhaps he knew that even if he moved, he couldn't move. When the whip landed, there was no sound at all. Even Mo opened his eyes in disbelief. The cultivators around them were silent, and no one spoke at this time. Everyone stared at the whip, because the whip of the Dao sculpting woman riding on the flood dragon beast did not hit Mo. Her whip had been grabbed by someone. A Dao sculpting holy emperor's whip that contained laws of Dao charm fell without a sound. How could this person be weak? This person was at least a late-stage Dao nourishment holy emperor, or even stronger. The woman holding the whip was also shocked. She sobered up after a while and said in anger, "Who are you? How dare you stop me?" Ningqing's hand shook, and the woman's whip fell into his hand. Forgive people when possible. Why is Dao friend so aggressive? Who are you? The woman finally calmed down and stared at Ningqing calmly. At the same time, she urged the flood dragon beast to take a few steps back. She was afraid that Ningqing would suddenly attack her. Ningqing said with a calm voice, "A rogue cultivator. He's my friend. I don't know how he offended Dao friend. I don't think Dao friend lost anything, so let's just forget about it." Hearing Ningqing say that he was Mo's friend and a rogue cultivator, the woman's expression suddenly turned fierce. She raised her hand and threw out a beam of red light. She then said, "If you don't scram in 3 breaths, then you can die with this ant." If Ningqing was a disciple of a major academy, then she would have some fear, But a rogue cultivator also dared to meddle in her affairs? She naturally did not think that Ning Cheng was lying. Any disciple of an academy, in this kind of situation, would not say that they were rogue cultivators, as this was related to the face of the academy. If Ning Cheng said that he was a rogue cultivator, then he really was a rogue cultivator. Ning Cheng's complexion turned cold, as he suddenly clasped his hands together. The long whip that he had snatched from his hands suddenly gave out a burst of crackling sounds. A moment later, the long whip turned into a pile of slag as Ning Cheng threw it onto the street. If you dare to make a move again, then this whip will be your head. After Ning Cheng melted the whip with his flames, his tone turned ice cold. As such, Ning Cheng naturally knew that there was only one way to deal with unreasonable cultivators, and that was to be even more unreasonable than the other party. The woman sucked in a breath of cold air. She guessed that Ning Cheng was most likely a Dao Nourishment late-stage Holy Emperor. Her long whip was a mid-grade god artifact after all. Who could casually turn a mid-grade god artifact into scraps? Turning a middle-grade divine artifact into slag casually, apart from having a strong cultivation level, could also be done by an artifact crafting master. Artifact crafting masters knew the structure of divine artifacts like the back of their hands, so they could naturally do it. Ning Cheng, on the other hand, was a high-level artifact crafting master. He could also casually refine middle-grade divine artifacts, let alone destroy an ordinary middle-grade divine artifact. The woman did not dare to speak again, while the people around her marveled at Ning Cheng's strength. Junior Sister Xiaoqian, what's going on? 3 figures landed next to the woman riding the flood dragon beast. The one who asked was a young man with half silver hair and half red hair. There were 2 women next to the man, one of whom wore a veil over her face and had an indifferent expression. The other woman was tall and slender, and she also had a head of silver hair. To Ning Cheng's surprise, he knew the indifferent woman with a veil over her face. She was from the Sunken Fish Palace. This woman had gone to his place with Sun Rushuan and Zhongming Yuxiu and asked him for 2 Bodhi pills. Among the 3 people who came, the woman with the veil over her face had the highest cultivation level at the early stage Dao transformation realm. In addition, the silver-haired young man was at the mid-stage Dao birth realm. The other tall silver-haired woman had the same cultivation level as junior sister Xiaoqian, who was riding the flood dragon beast. They were both at the mid-stage Dao modeling realm. This person wants to teach me a lesson. He destroyed my whip. Upon seeing these people come over, the woman riding the flood dragon beast immediately removed the fear on her face. She flew down and stood in the middle of the 3 people before pointing at Ning Cheng. Upon hearing what the woman called Xiaoqian said, the red-haired man walked out. He cupped his fists at Ning Cheng and said, "I'm Gong Qi from the Silver Dragon clan. Why did you attack junior sister Xiaoqian from the Sunken Fish Palace? Why did you destroy her Dharma treasure?" Ning Cheng seemed to be at the late-stage Dao modeling realm, but Gong Qi did not dare to be careless. Sure enough, he was from the Silver Dragon clan. Ning Cheng from the Silver Dragon clan knew Gong Huayu and the silver-haired woman. They could even be considered friends. Gong Qi told them about his background and Xiaoqian's background. Apart from the mysterious very ancient clan, which never came out, in the Grand Essence Sea, the Silver Dragon clan and the Sunken Fish Palace were powerful existences second only to the Barbarian Dragon clan. They were also among the top 10 sects of the Grand Essence realm. Gong Qi naturally wanted Ning Cheng to report his background. If they were both from the big sects, everyone would naturally negotiate with each other. In fact, Gong Qi also thought that Ning Cheng's origin was not ordinary. Would an ordinary person dare to meddle in the affairs of the Sea Dragon's sacred city? Did he think that he had lived enough? This is all my fault. It's not this friend's fault. I accidentally startled that flood dragon beast. If there's anything, come at me. Mo, who had not spoken, suddenly stepped forward. He had been in the Sea Dragon's sacred city for a long time. How could he not know the power of the Silver Dragon clan and the Sunken Fish Palace? He did not want to implicate Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng was a rogue cultivator like him. Once he offended these 2 sects, he might not even be able to reincarnate. Ning Cheng was about to speak when his eyes suddenly twitched. He saw Deacon Xia in the crowd. This guy was really persistent. He actually chased him all the way to the Sea Dragon Sacred City. When Ningcheng looked at Deacon Xia was still staring at Ningcheng. He did not act rashly. Instead, he stood in the crowd and watched the show. Ningcheng's heart sank. He knew that Deacon Xia had recognized him. If not for Mo, Ningcheng was sure that he would have teleported away by now. As long as he was a step faster than Deacon Xia, it would be fine. Now that he was delayed because of Mo, this guy actually caught up. Since Deacon Xia could chase him all the way here, it meant that he was determined not to let Ningcheng leave the Sea Dragon Sacred City. Ningcheng was sure that once his conflict with the Silver Dragon clan and the Sunken Fish Palace ended, Deacon Xia would take the initiative to find trouble with him, and then take the opportunity to take him away. Even if the conflict was too intense, Deacon Xia would appear to help and take him away. After hesitating for a while, Ningcheng sent a message to Ba Meng. Among his good friends, apart from Cheng Hotian, only Ba Meng had the highest cultivation. Cheng Hotian was still poisoned, and was in Heaven Essence Sacred City. Even if Ningcheng wanted to ask him for help, there was no other way. Ba Meng had always been in the Grand Essence Sea, so maybe he could come here faster. Although Ba Meng was a half-step Dao Essence cultivator, it wasn't because he didn't have enough accumulation of Dao Essence, but because his Dao heart couldn't be perfected. It was all because of his son Ba Luo. In the Dark Nether Realm, Ningcheng had given Ba Meng a 6-in soul pill. Maybe Ba Luo would wake up. Once Ba Luo woke up, Ba Meng's Dao heart would immediately be perfected, and it wouldn't be impossible for him to reach Dao Essence Realm in an instant. After all, not everyone could use a place like the Dragon Cleansing Pool. As long as Ba Meng reached Dao Essence Realm, with his help, it would be possible to kill this Deacon Xia. Therefore, in his message to Ba Meng, if he reached Dao Essence Realm, he should immediately come to the Sea Dragon Sacred City. If he didn't reach Dao Essence Realm, he shouldn't come. If Ba Meng didn't come, he could only rely on the bead condensed from his spiritual consciousness to escape. Since he couldn't escape through the teleportation array, he could only use the starry sky wheel to cross the Grand Essence Sea. Seeing Ningcheng not speaking, everyone thought that Ningcheng was afraid. Big Brother Qi, he's just a rogue cultivator. He was arrogant before and didn't put Sea Dragon Sacred City in his eyes at all. Xiuqian also thought that Ningcheng was afraid and spoke with sarcasm. When Gong Qi heard this, he looked at Ningcheng's silent appearance, and a cruel sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Since he was a rogue cultivator, then don't blame him for being rude. Late-stage Dao sculpting, it was just a joke in his eyes. He didn't directly attack Ningcheng but raised his hand to grab Mo. He wanted to crush Mo to death in Sea Dragon Sacred City, and then asked Ningcheng where he got the courage to act wildly in Sea Dragon Sacred City. A Dao Nourishment Holy Emperor's domain pressed down, and Mo suddenly felt an endless terrifying force fall. His whole body trembled, and his legs kept swaying, as if he would fall to his knees at any time. Then, a spirit essence handprint with a bloody aura descended from the sky, almost covering the entire street. The surrounding cultivators retreated again. No one dared to stand up and speak. After Ningcheng sent out the message, he saw the blood-colored handprint falling down. He snorted and took a step forward. The domain that was suppressing him, and Mo cracked like an eggshell. Then Ningcheng punched out. This punch directly blasted the space between him and Gong Qi into nothingness, and the fist shadow landed on Gong Qi's chest in an instant. When Gong Qi grabbed the handprint, he felt as if he was standing at the top of a waterfall, and everything under his feet was washed away by the waterfall. In merely an instant, the 30,000-foot waterfall suddenly rolled back, and a boundless aura mixed with violent divine essence energy smashed onto his chest instead. Gong Qi only heard the sound of his bones shattering inch by inch. Then he spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. He directly hit the restriction at the entrance of a shop, creating a gap in the defensive restriction. With a plop, Gong Qi fell to the ground, and his whole body twitched on the ground. Ningcheng's punch contained the great Dao laws. Even if Gong Qi was a Dao Nourishment Holy Emperor, he wouldn't be able to recover in a short time. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.